You can never truly understand horror until it swallows you whole. Rose knew that feeling all too well. She'd lived it once, and now she was living again. A ley line fracture. The last time it happened, she'd been on a bus heading to work. The ground had split open, the sky had turned red, and monstrous shapes poured out of the rift. The bus flipped, people screamed, and she barely crawled out alive. That same suffocating terror clawed at her again as she and Achilles emerged from the Evolution's catacombs, right into the chaos of a new fracture tearing through the city of neon. Dark skies split with thunder. Bodies were hurled through the air. One slammed into the side of a building and burst apart like a crushed fruit. Screams filled the streets. Panic spread faster than fire. Then came the roars. Beasts, massive, twisted things, were pouring out of the rift below. Rose froze. The noise, the death, the scent of ozone. It was the same nightmare all over again. SAA. A whip of vines lashed across the sky. They caught falling people midair, and one coiled around her waist, lowering her gently to the cracked road. Her heart still pounded, but her fear began to fade. Because she wasn't alone. He was here. Her anchor. Her light. The man who always thought she had saved him. He didn't know he'd been the one to save her. Years ago, when she'd lost everything, her family, her home, her reason to live, she'd wanted to disappear, to end the pain before it repeated itself again. Then she met him, a boy just as broken, just as lost. She stayed beside him, telling herself it was only for a while. But a while turned into days, weeks, months, until her life began to feel like life again. His persistence, his quiet strength, even his stupid jokes, they'd pulled her out of the darkness piece by piece. He became a reason to keep breathing. Now, as fear clawed at her once more, she found strength in his presence. The natural evolutionist suit he had wrapped around her thrummed with power. His essence surrounded her like armor. He had always protected her. This time, she would protect him. The green flames within her meridian flared. She would burn everything that dared to harm her little fatty. Boom! Lightning cracked behind them. The sky was alive with thunder as treants, towering creatures of wood and electricity, crawled out of the earth like a living storm. Beep! Beep! Car alarms wailed as stray bolts struck nearby, setting vehicles ablaze. Screams rose again. Major David slammed a distress beacon and barked orders. Around them, advanced humans rushed in to help, only to stop dead when they saw what was coming. They recognized the glowing meridians pulsing across the Trent's bodies. Middle tier, upper tier, even meridian transformation level beasts. The kind that turn entire strike teams to ash. Panic spread. Most body modification advanced humans fled without looking back. Only one meridian transformation level warrior dared to approach, his expression grim as he joined David, Eloise, and Rose, each of them shining with active meridians. Don't let them scatter. Keep them contained, David roared, his body igniting as he exhaled a torrent of fire. Eloise answered with jagged waves of frost that slammed into the advancing treants, but the creatures barely slowed. The air filled with the hiss of steam, the crack of thunder, the smell of burning wood and ozone. Rose could feel her blood heating up, her own meridian pulsing in rhythm with the chaos. She turned to Achilles. Their bodies, she said quietly. She knew what he needed, what his power craved. If she burned them all, there would be nothing left for him to consume. Burn everything you can, he said firmly. Half your power only. That was all she needed to hear. Even when he tried to act cold, she knew his heart. He couldn't stand by while others died. He'd lost too much for that. So she would fight, not just for him, but for everyone he couldn't save. Her meridian flared, pulsing like a drumbeat of life and fire. She raised her hand high, then brought it down with fierce resolve. Boom! A colossal bloom of emerald flame erupted above the fracture, a radiant, scorching flower that spread across the night sky. The heat rolled through the city, the light piercing the storm clouds. And in the chaos of the colony city of neon, Rose Adrian burned like a green star. A single verdant flower bloomed amidst chaos. It unfolded like a miracle of light and destruction, a scorching green blossom that made even Major David and the others flinch back from the sheer heat. But they weren't its target. The flower descended and struck the heart of the ley line fracture. Boom! The impact split the world. Flames erupted outward in a wave so intense that the ground itself seemed to liquefy. Every evolutionist beast caught in the blast melted instantly, flesh and armor fusing into black sludge before the green inferno expanded again, blooming into a perfect ring of fire. The ring exploded outward, shredding what remained. The molten fragments turned to ash midair, scattering like glowing embers across the storm-dark sky. When the fire dimmed, all that was left were drifting cinders. A deadly, beautiful aftermath. Major David and Eloise stood frozen. They counted the remains in disbelief. 8 lesser Meridian Transformation beasts, a dozen body modification class beasts, all wiped out in one move. She erased them, David muttered. All of them. Even Achilles blinked, his calm breaking. He leaned close to Rose, voice low. That was 50%. Dumb, dumb, dumb. Her heart pounded as she nodded, still trembling from the power she'd unleashed. She hadn't expected it to be this strong. But their brief awe ended quickly. The ground rumbled again. The ley line fracture widened, glowing brighter as new waves of beasts began to surge out. Major David's voice thundered over the chaos. Form a perimeter. Tanks to the front. Contain them before they spread. The air filled with mechanical hums as massive aerial Linares drones swooped in from above. Vibrant purple turrets unfolded from their bellies, raining bullets of compressed plasma into the streets. BRRR. The barrage shredded through the smaller monsters, but barely slowed the stronger ones. Against lesser Meridian Transformation beasts, the weaponry was little more than noise. Still, it bought precious seconds. Major David frowned, scanning the field. There should be more of them by now. Why isn't the number increasing? He couldn't know what was happening below. Deep beneath the fractured earth, an enormous crystal vine tower had awakened, an organic fortress of glowing vines. Each pulse of its tendrils cut through a dozen Meridian Transformation beasts per second, liquefying them into streams of energy. Above ground, Achilles' own vines lashed out across the perimeter, forming twisting barricades to keep stray treants from escaping deeper into the city. Eloise fired volleys of glacial shards, freezing and shattering groups in place, while David's molten flames consumed whatever slipped through. Together, they held a fracture, barely. Whenever the monsters began to cluster too thickly, Rose's green flames bloomed again, reducing the tide to ashes. It was chaos, but a controlled chaos. Achilles glanced toward Major David. How long do ley line fractures usually last? Anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, David shouted over the gunfire. Depends on the size and stability. 30 minutes to an hour. If it lasted that long, Achilles could devour enough essence to push his assimilation further, to evolve both his organic crystal and Phanergam pathways to the next echelon. He just needed time. A distant hum grew louder as a fleet of aerial evolutionist carriers appeared on the horizon, cutting through the rain. Their hulls bore the unmistakable word, Titan. Beside them flew ships marked with the Golden Trading Company's emblem, and others bearing the sigil of the Linares Overseers. Reinforcements had arrived. Major David laughed, heat radiating from his body like a sun. Support's here. This might be the cleanest ley line fracture response in colony history. The defenders cheered, briefly. High above, atop one of the Titan carriers, Amos stood in silence. The reflection of green fire danced across his cold eyes. Below, the battle raged. The vines, the flames, the impossible strength of the pair he tried to intimidate. He flinched slightly at the sight of those vines, their poison, their lightning-infused growth, and his jaw tightened. Then a deep, resonant voice spoke beside him. "You see," said his father, "never leave enemies alive. Never assume." The older man's meridians blazed like constellations, his eyes glowing with power. From this height, his vision pierced the distance easily, focusing on Achilles, Rose, and the others. The Major and the Ice Girl, no threat. But his tone grew cold. She awakened a meridian the same day she evolved. Her flames burned strong enough to reduce lesser meridian beasts to ash. The heat she wields approaches the greater meridian transformation stage. He looked at his son, expression as sharp as lightning. She's not a rival, Amos. She's a danger. You've made an enemy who could erase you with a single thought. Remember that before you act again. The words dripped with frost, and Amos, the lightning hand, clenched his fists in silence as thunder cracked behind him.
Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
The gaze of Amos' father, Solomon, was a heavy one. You chose a very terrifying enemy, my son. Just that girl alone. She's like this after a day. What do you think will happen to her after a week? A month? After this fracture, the Linares colony overseers are going to crowd towards her like hyenas after the power she had displayed. She may likely be given resources to be pumped to greater meridian transformation within the next few weeks. And then the puny little lesser meridian transformation who tried to kill her along with a major before he caused a ley line fracture. What do you think will happen to him? His father's voice thundered in his ears as Amos only became more and more ashen when he thought about it. How could they have possibly survived swarms of evolutionist beasts before the fracture? How? His expression was extremely unsightly as his father continued. As a shareholder of the Titan Industries, what do you think happens when it becomes common news that my son caused a ley line fracture? Questions would start to be asked about where you obtained the Devil Crystal. Scrutiny would fall onto the Titan Industries and everything we have been doing so far. My son, do you see the snowball of your single infatuation? Wah! The body of the lightning titan, Solomon, pulsed with arcs of blue lightning as beside him. His son trembled. You have access to all the money in the world. You could buy dozens of normal human women to spend the night with, every night for as long as you live. You could send a message to Desmond, and he can even arrange meridian transformation women to do whatever you want with. And yet you just so happen to kick down the most volatile and dangerous doors now. I have to clean the mess up. As his father spoke, he pulled out a mask that had the face of a dark crimson goat, horns sticking out on the sides as it pulsed with an eerie crimson glare. The moment it was placed on his face, his whole demeanor underwent a change as the mask became glued to him, his lightning changing color to become crimson, and his figure actually growing horns that matched the goat mask. Meanwhile, his meridians also adopted a devilish crimson color, as the very air he emanated became heavy and filled with a devilish light. Let tonight be a critical lesson to you in always finishing what you started. And then, when you need to get things done, cause even more chaos first. Muddy the waters. His voice was entirely different, raspy, ancient, deeper, and as he spoke, his hands flickered to reveal 9 dazzling devil crystals on them that he infused threads of crimson lightning in before raising his hand and throwing them towards the opened ley line fracture below them. It was only a glimmer of black radiance that nobody even saw with how fast it was. Amos trembled at what he saw as when his father saw this. Smack! A rough hand filled with power slapped him lightly, and yet his mouth filled with blood just from this as his father's voice thundered out. Get a hold of yourself. My progeny cannot be this shaken or weak by every little thing. Watch from afar and do not get involved. There are too many things we're doing to get scrutiny placed on us in this current stage, as this is how you clear any mess that had been made. Amos, you cause chaos, and in that chaos, you erase all your enemies. That girl Rose and that boy Achilles, you can consider them dead and free of you after their corpses are in my hands. Understood? Above the aerial evolutionist vehicle, Amos tested the blood in his mouth and nodded as in the next moment, his father disappeared. Deep in the ley line fracture, Achilles was continuing his massacre of the evolutionist beast down here, as the organic crystal and organic phanerogam assimilation percentages had shockingly tipped past 70%, with how quickly he was taking down the lesser meridian transformation evolutionist beasts. He was about to continue this process when BZZT, 9 rapid flashes of light appeared in the ley line fracture, 3 piercing into his crystalline vines by at least an inch, and others sank into the catacomb walls. But 3 pierced into the defenses of his crystal vines by at least an inch. This was the first time he felt his defenses pierced into by even a tiny bit, as when he was able to feel what the objects were, his mind buzzed with shock and horror. The black crystalline texture. It was devil crystals. Boom! The tendrils of crimson lightning exploded and shattered them as 9 devil crystals bloomed at once. Bursts of black light gushing out and making the entire cavernous space as dark as night. His heart pulsed with trepidation. The last time a devil crystal had appeared was on Amos. And now, 9 appearing at once. His heart pulsed with trepidation as up above. His body instantly moved. He did not know what was going on, but his first instinct was always singular. His world, his reason for living. On the chaotic streets of the colony city of Neon, he came right beside Rose as instinctively. Layers upon layers of crystalline vines rose around them. His body began to bloom with all his armor just as this began. His thermoreception caught something akin to a blazing crimson sun instantly appearing near him and Rose. Time felt like it slowed as a terrifying aura only bloomed right as it arrived before them. Achilles was only able to capture its devilish brilliance just when it appeared as not far from them. Major David and Eloise had looks of pure horror appeared, because what bloomed before Achilles and Rose was a human with the face of a goat, multiple meridians shining all over his body as Achilles very clearly caught his eyes. The pupils holding the vibrant crimson-blue meridians held a level of coldness and arrogance he recognized from a single man who had been infatuated with Rose and caused them many problems. He saw the same arrogance in the eyes of this terrifying creature. He looked at who in the next moment exploded with a crimson lightning claw, an image of a crimson roaring goat made of lightning blooming behind him as he struck out mercilessly towards Rose. Rose. AWO. Achilles felt like his heart was boiling and bursting as he erupted with absolutely everything he held, hugging Rose tightly and moving his body as quickly as he could to cover hers right where the crimson lightning claw that seemed to be dripping with devilish cursed blood was thundering forth. And, boom, an impact that shattered the earth below occurred. Layers of crystal vines, exoskeleton, and armors shockingly being shredded as 2 figures were flung out like cannonballs to smash across the road of the colony city of Neon, causing deep indentations until they ultimately smashed into the wall of crystal vines that Achilles enacted himself. His vision felt like it almost blacked out for a second. When he came to again, he wheezed to get his air back as he looked down at his most precious thing. He saw Rose, crying out silent tears and screaming loudly as her hands held onto intestines and pieces of blood and gore. His eyes burned as he saw. The left side of her stomach going towards her waist was torn, a bloody mess visible as a chunk of her body seemed to be missing. Cursed crimson lightning flashed over her skin and ate up her muscle as if it had teeth, but she was not looking at any of this as her screams and a sheer look of terror was the fact that half of Achilles' upper body was gone. His right side, his shoulder was missing. His back was torn in half as a remnant of a lung pulsed. Chest bone shattered, and his shattered organs and intestines spilled out a huge hole present on his body. Half of his upper body shredded and missing, and yet he didn't feel any pain from this. What he did feel was a sense of tremendous loss and rage as he saw Rose's terrified expression as she held his bloodied pieces, her screaming and terror-filled eyes. He saw all of this as he felt his heart shatter. He just wanted them to be left alone. He just wanted him and Rose to be safe. Why? Boom! His body erupted out mad waves of purple radiance that covered all his torn parts. Regeneration 2 burning with brilliance. Behind him, he sensed the goat masked man walking towards their direction while tendrils of crimson lightning gathered around him. The face of a devilish goat behind him becoming more and more real. Its eyes radiated a serpentine glow of malice and devouring, and it seemed foreign and archaic. Achilles looked at all of this with unfathomable rage, as he wanted more power to defend against this creature that wanted to destroy everything he had. He wanted to assimilate anything he could to ensure that his world, Rose, would not collapse, because for some reason, many seemed hell-bent on causing everything he held to collapse. AWO. He howled out his rage towards the oncoming goat masked man, his mind searching for anything to assimilate to protect his world as he felt the shattered road he stood on. So far, he could assimilate anything that he tried. At this moment, as he desperately looked for something tremendous to assimilate and assimilate endlessly in order to protect his world, his feet felt the solid and incomparably vast earth below him. Earth that stretched out across the colony city of Neon and beyond to countless other colony cities. This world, this terrible world that seemed intent on taking away his Rose, his own small world. In his emboldened rage, he roared out, "Assimilate!" He roared out to assimilate the very world he stood on as he needed something big. He needed something heavy. Crimson light flashed beneath his feet in a warning, brighter than ever before, as if it was cautioning him, as if it was telling him to definitely not do this. But damn all the caution. Damn everything else. Assimilate. He roared out with maddened fervor as the crimson light became ever brighter, the earth of Euthymia below him shaking before he felt streams that seemed to come from an endless sea flow into him. Streams of unfathomable power that instantly stopped his rampant bleeding, his body that was half torn and decimated rapidly gushing out new organs, musculature, and structures as he roared out again towards the goat masked man. He would swallow even the world he stood on to protect his own. The goat masked man, a humanoid creature that seemed to be an advanced human by all aspects, as he should be wearing a sort of mask, and yet his head truly did seem akin to that of a goat, as he even had crimson horns rising by his side. But the way he carried himself, the way he ignored everything but the two he was targeting, the dazzling meridians all over his body, all of it stated this was an advanced human as why? Why? In the distance, Major David had just begun to roar out while his body surged forward when a crackling bolt of crimson lightning erupted and smashed into him, his figure being smashed backward with a deadly force as his life and death were unknown. The goat masked man only kept his eyes on Achilles as the fact that he intervened and his target did not die was something utterly unacceptable. After all, Achilles did not even have a meridian yet. Against a peak meridian transformation advanced human, even if he was just at the entry point, no lesser meridian transformation advanced human should be able to survive, much less a body modification one. So how? One of the only possibilities made the goat masked man feel an even greater sense of power and urgency, as only a single answer existed as to why a newly awakened advanced human could display such power. Transcendent. Could his son's luck have truly led him to such a being? Boom! Lightning crackled as behind the goat masked man. The illusory goat head began to form a crimson body of lightning with hooves, a tail, and wings as the pressure he radiated became more and more inhuman. And yet somehow, the young man ahead still looked towards his was with unfathomable rage and malice. Rage? Malice? What good is any of that? His voice was deep as he raised his hand, the illusory goat beast behind him doing the same as a massive, coiling tendril of crimson lightning the size of a building formed above and thundered down onto a single spot. And the eyes of the goat masked man opened wide. Achilles had his hand stretched out as around him and rose. A faint green barrier could now be seen as it entirely stopped the tendril of lightning the size of a building from smashing into them. Not just this, something else could be noticed. On the outstretched hand of Achilles What looked to be the beginning of a meridian was forming. What was this? What was this? Around Achilles. His feet were sunken into the earth below him as he greedily devoured from what seemed to be an endless sea, as if he could continue swallowing and assimilating it. And he wouldn't have even devoured a shred of it. So he swallowed it all. He felt his body explode with a terrifying depth and weight as he healed everything rapidly, the feeling of fullness reaching an unprecedented level as in the corner of his eyes, he saw something new flash as a brand new echelon of something new was gained. That was how much he had swallowed. His intent was the very world below him as he absorbed so much that he went from 0 to 100% and entered an unknown echelon right away. As this occurred, the enemy ahead rained down lightning the size of a building as he roared out, while commanding even more of the world below his feet to be swallowed, his hands raised up instinctively as a dazzling, impenetrable barrier seemingly formed around him. A barrier that stopped the terrifying strike of crimson lightning that may have scorched the old him from a few seconds ago entirely. What was it? In his rage, his eyes quickly looked at the panel in the corner of his eyes to make sure he understood the new tools he had gained in order to actually use them to survive and ensure that Rose would be safe. Achilles Maxwell, Organic and Inorganic Terrestrial Planetary Body, Echelon 1, 0.008%. Obtain the qualities of Planetary Force Field I, Gravitational Field Manipulation I, World Healing I, Limited Astronomical Physiology I. Organic Crystal, Evolucious Crystal, Echelon 2, 88%. Obtain qualities of Regeneration 2, Energy Conversion 2, Flexibility 2, Light Manipulation 2, Biological Nurturing 2, and Crystal Manipulation 2. Assimilation, Organic Phanerogam, Life Form, Echelon 2, 91%. Obtain qualities of Dermal Armor 2, Regeneration 2, Photosynthetic 2, Lightning Physiology 2, Abnormal Endurance 2, and Vine Generation 2. Organic Arachnida Life Form, Echelon 1. Gained qualities of Poison Generation, Appendage Generation, Exoskeletal Armor, Physical Adherence, and Thermoreception. Existence Corruption Value, 29%. Complexity, extremely weak terrestrial life form. His rage did not cloud his judgment. He still saw things clearly as his eyes honed in on Planetary Force Field I, Gravitational Field Manipulation I, World Healing I, and Limited Astronomical Physiology I. Around him, the green transparent barrier that stopped ant lightning from coming in was the Planetary Force Field I. Planetary Force Field. It was something utterly unimaginable, but he conjured it as feeling the power of the lightning hitting it and the fact that it was doing absolutely nothing to this force field. He calmed slightly while turning around. He saw Rose's terrified face and her tears, as well as her heavy injury as his hand touched her cheeks while activated World Healing Eye. BZZT. An instant later, Rose's muscles and skin regrew as she was healed entirely. It's okay. He held her cheek as he brought his forehead to hers. Do not cry anymore. I will never be injured like that again, and nor will you. Trust me, please. I will never allow something like this to happen again. He almost roared out toward the end as he opened his eyes to see Rose nodding fiercely. She wiped her tears away as her face was replaced with utter fury, staring out towards the figure of the goat mask man as she spoke. Little fatty, I want to burn everything. I want to burn him and everything else. Her voice trembled as fear was still being fought against to bring up her courage, and Achilles nodded with a chilly light while gazing coldly towards the goat mask man. They wanted to take away the only thing the two of them had. They wanted to destroy him and Rose. Today he would show this goat mask man and any others who had these thoughts just what would happen if such a thing occurred again, even though he seemingly had more than enough power. Still, assimilate. He roared out to the earth below him. He wanted more. He felt the very earth below him buzz lightly as he swallowed from its endless sea of structure, arcs of TED light flashing around his eyes as he ignored them. He felt his right hand burning as there, a multicolored meridian was rapidly lighting up and giving him an even grander sense of power, a power that continued to scale upwards as he assimilated more and more of the organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body. Due to the sheer target he was absorbing, due to its complexity, what it gave him from its vast sea was enough to start off his first meridian, but this was not it. On his left hand, it began to itch as here as well, another dazzling multicolor meridian began to bloom. His body, which he felt was already over 100 times more powerful than just a minute ago, exploded with even more power. But at such a time, his vision blared red. He had been ignoring the crimson arcs of warnings flashing all around him, but as if they could not be ignored any longer, the crimson light covered his eyes entirely as this time. Words actually form alongside it. Existence corruption value is about to exceed 49%. Existence corruption value is about to exceed 49%. Existence corruption value is about to exceed 49%. The message flashed multiple times as if begging him to stop. And an instant later, he intuitively gave the command as he stopped swallowing the planetary body he stood on. He looked at his panel once again. Achilles Maxwell, organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body, echelon 1, 8.009%. Obtain the qualities of planetary force field I, gravitational field manipulation I, world healing I, limited astronomical physiology I. Organic crystal, evolutions crystal, echelon 2, 90%. Obtain qualities of regeneration 2, energy conversion 2, flexibility 2, light manipulation 2, biological nurturing 2, and crystal manipulation 2. Assimilation, organic phanerogam, life form echelon 2, 93%. Obtain qualities of dermal armor 2, regeneration 2, photosynthetic 2, lightning physiology 2, abnormal endurance 2, and vine generation 2. Organic arachnida life form echelon 1, gained qualities of poison generation, appendage generation, exoskeletal armor, physical adherence, and thermoreception. Existence corruption value, 49%. Complexity, extremely weak terrestrial life form. A few things changed as something he barely noticed, which had changed when he obtained his first meridian, was his level of complexity. It was no longer negligible. But even then, extremely weak terrestrial life form was something else. What was most concerning was the existence corruption value, that innately his own body was telling him he should do all he could to not exceed 49%. He had swallowed a lot of something far too big. He wanted to swallow more, but this would have to do for now. He did not keep swallowing because he felt the goat mask man was too powerful. He had kept on swallowing because he wanted there to not even be a competition. He wanted not even a shred of possibility to exist of this entity being able to hurt them again. He went a bit overboard, but this was more than enough. Behind him, Rose stood by his side as he spoke out. "Let me take care of it today, and you'll take care of it next time, okay?" He talked to her to keep her calm, and she nodded with her furious eyes as in the next moment, Achilles activated gravitational field manipulation. Around him and Rose, their gravitational field changed how Achilles saw fit as their bodies began to rise towards up, away from the land below, into the dark skies of the colony city of Neon, as Achilles stared ahead at the goat mask man, who seemed to become utterly furious. Behind him, the illusion of the crimson-winged goat flapped its lightning wings as the body of the goat mask man began to float as well, a storm of lightning gathering around him as they formed into dozens of massive lightning spears. The newly arriving advanced humans were shocked at this scene as down below, the ley line fracture exploded as the hole became 3 times bigger, hundreds of meridian transformation evolutionist beasts spilling out endlessly as the many arriving advanced human could not even focus on the battle between the goat mask man and Achilles. They sought to do their best to contain the terrifying flow of evolutionist beasts, utter chaos unfolding all around as at this moment. The spears of crimson lightning around the goat mask man thundered out towards Achilles. And what occurred next was something that many who were present here would never be able to forget. In the face of the thundering crimson lightning spears, Achilles gazed towards the goat mask man with cold rage as he activated gravitational field manipulation once more. The pathway of all of the dozens of crimson spears being changed and guided by him as they curved around their figures in the sky and returned towards the goat mask man with twice the speed. Boom! Boom! They exploded around the one who threw them, and after that, Achilles felt the overfilled sensation of power within him as he activated limited astronomical physiology eye. He felt like his body wanted to do many fantastical things. But at this moment, he just allowed it to get bigger in size. Astronomical physiology. Just what did this truly mean when it related to a planetary body? Nobody here would ever truly know as Achilles felt his weight and density become more and more intense, his power being amplified as his body enlarged in the neon skies of a small section of this colony city. When he reached over 20 meters, he stopped it, not because it was his limit, but because he felt like this would be more than enough. Around his right hand, terrifying tendrils of multicolored lightning bloomed. Their size was massive. Their power felt far heavier than the crimson lightning thrown before by many times over. The explosions of crimson lightning around the goat masked man stopped as he was able to see the full visage of Achilles in the skies, as well as the tendrils of lightning coiling around him that all struck out towards his figure, intent on turning him to ash. The goat masked man, Solomon, the lightning titan, looked at such a scene with cold incredulity and rage as he shouted out. To truly come across a transcendent advanced human, what dog's hit luck is this? The goat masked man roared as before his sound waves could travel out to all those around. Achilles covered everything with heavy booms of lightning nearby as they drowned out his words entirely, nobody hearing anything, and lightning over 10 meters in size thundered onto the goat masked man in all directions, each one carrying a calamitous might as they bombarded down. Limited astronomical physiology eye. What granted was not just an increase in size. Achilles felt as if the complex waves of energy in his body were supercharged, their already powerful weight becoming even heavier. So when the multicolored lightning he shot out landed on the goat masked man, he knew that it was going in for the kill. He went a step further as these massive tendrils of lightning were filled with energy conversion too, making it so that any other type of energy they came across would be eaten up. Even poison generation, too, burned throughout these tendrils of lightning, as they were no longer just filled with simple poison. The limited astronomical physiology, augmented and increased the potency and intensity of everything, not to mention his own advancement into meridian transformation. The result was something fantastical, as in the skies. Someone supposedly of the lesser meridian transformation ranking jumped across stages as they struck down someone that had just stepped onto the path of a peak meridian transformation advanced human. Lightning crackled and roared like a rageful beast, decimating any sense of defense, as, of course, what it took to achieve all of this was not so simple. Nobody would understand that Achilles had ridiculously, somehow, assimilated qualities of the very same planet they were all on, his body filled to the brim with power that no common meridian transformation advanced human should have at his stage. What happened next was a result of things others could not even fathom. The illusion of the crimson-winged goat roared out with archaic malice before the heavy multicolored lightning tore it apart. The cursed crimson light dispersing as it actually sank towards the earth below and disappeared. Achilles looked at this coldly as he kept his gaze on the one who threatened his and Rose's life today, his body currently scorched and trying to fall from the skies as he wouldn't allow it. Gravitational field manipulation I activated from him again as his hand made a reaching motion, the body of their assailant being pulled towards them rapidly by a heavy force. Within seconds, it was right before their eyes. Its size alone was a tenth of Achilles, as his whole body was less than the size of Achilles' head. A scorched human body, a torn goat mask, and underneath it, a twitching, scorched human face. Those eyes, that face, it all felt very similar to someone else he knew. And at this moment, these eyes shone with unstable malice. the meridians within these eyes letting out a terrifying light as the scorched human instantly turned and roared towards Achilles, who still had his 20-meter-tall stature. But, SAA, the burst of lightning met a faint green force field and faded into nothingness, Achilles letting out his rage roll from his lungs and into his throat as he bellowed out towards the seemingly small, 2-meter-tall human, his hands coming together in a slap. A slap, with the body of a peak meridian transformation advanced human in the center of his palms. A terrifying gravitational pressure emanated from each of his hands. Squelch! A horrific sound rang out, meridians being shattered like simple vessels as the body of a peak meridian transformation advanced human was turned to pulp. When Achilles pulled his hands apart, only a mass of blood and guts fell down listlessly. Hugh! He breathed out the last of his burning rage as his body reduced in size to what he once was. His rage had been pacified somewhat, but he still felt unbelievable power rolling within him. He turned around and saw Rose with burning eyes that actually shot out green flames at this time. Flames that surged out to wrap around the blood and guts that he had already crushed as they began to be burnt to ash. Someone sought to kill them, and they killed this someone instead. And now, roar! Huge tides of trance of different types were spilling out of the ley line fracture. The advanced humans that had just arrived were doing their best to manage this while bombardment continued relentlessly from massive aerial Linares drones that increased in number. At the same time, there was a group of advanced humans that had extremely ugly expressions. The ones hanging inside the aerial evolutionist vehicle with the label of Titan. As if they knew the identity of the one that had just died, their faces were ashen. Achilles noted this as his gaze became even colder, but he turned his attention towards the ley line fracture first. Something like this should be manageable for the current him. Are you with me? He asked while floating in the skies under augmented gravity. He would only ever ask this question to a single being. Always. And Rose replied decisively as Achilles nodded. Let me just clear this mess we are in first, and then we can ensure that nobody with even the intention to hurt us again ever gets the chance to. His rage was fading, but he knew that for complete safety, he would have to track down the one who started all of this. But first, he clenched his fist. Down below, a crystal vine tower that was already terrifying became utterly apocalyptic for the hundreds of beasts gushing out from below, with a flower-like vine blooming and extending around to actually cover the opening of the ley line fracture and stop any more evolutionist beasts from gushing out. As for the throngs of hundreds of evolutionist beasts who were already above and rushing around haphazardly, while others were fighting against advanced humans. SAA. Their tree-like limbs flailed as they shockingly found themselves to be rising from the earth below them. Hundreds of trance, many of them of the lesser meridian transformation. Every single one, without fail, was pulled into the skies uncontrollably by a fantastical gravity. The recently arriving advanced humans looked at this with stupefaction as in a corner, a bloodied Major David coughed out blood, an arm and a leg missing as he watched this scene in disbelief. The skies became filled with roaring trance as they were plucked up like nothing, and they came to swirl around a young man and a woman floating in the skies as, in the next moment, verdant flames erupted from the young woman like a storm. At the same time, multicolored tendrils of lightning bloomed and began blotting out the skies, going towards all the trance there, as a glorious reality unfolded in the skies right above a ley line fracture. Even higher above these skies, there were multiple aerial Linares drones with multiple layers of lenses observing everything. And even higher above, there was a thin barrier that covered all of the colony city of Neon. Past this barrier, a massive drone-like vessel that was at least a mile long floated defiantly, a massive mechanical eye filled with purple lines of evolutionist crystals placed at the very center, as this eyes seemed to constantly be recording everything within the colony city of Neon and slightly beyond it. The pupil of the eye uniquely had the shape of a half-moon, as this was a property of the Linares colony overseers. At this moment, inside of a certain department of this massive aerial vessel. A major with similar armament to David could be seen as he was in a room with a few others who were currently monitoring the ley line fracture. At this moment, he became utterly serious as he spoke to the 9 or so other advanced humans inside the room. Leave your posts and proceed to the cleanup bay. Get ready to deploy down below. 3 greater meridian transformation advanced humans and 6 lesser meridian transformation ones looked at each other at such a command before they nodded and cleared the room. The room, which held multiple screens that showed the ley line fracture in a small corner of the colony city of Neon, as well as recorded video feeds of what had just occurred. The illusory winged goat. The fight that occurred thereafter. The faces of Achilles and Rose filled some screens, while the face of the goat mask man filled other screens. After the room was clear, the man, a major whose body was filled with meridians, pressed a small key and entered a lengthy password before he began to speak. A new advanced human anomaly has been discovered. Were you observing? He wore a dark, evolutionist armament, with a silver Linares half-moon etched on his chest, his eyes burning with white meridians as his dark hair shone lustrously. Apart from the meridians all over his body and even his eyes, there were even meridians outlining his lungs and his heart, as he seemed absolutely incandescent with white brilliance. Such a being spoke, as after a few seconds, a voice that seemed to be taking everything in replied. Yes, I'm just reading the file of the subject a bit more. You can proceed with the report, Major Inu. A voice rang out in the room as it was filled with a commanding tone filled with calmness. Major Inu nodded as he continued. Codename Goat Devil Lightning Titan, who has recently been placed under watch after his sudden rise in power and less savory activities, has been killed by the new advanced human anomaly. What code name shall they be given, ma'am? Major Inu asked for the sake of ease in addressing them, and the fact that they now needed to open a file on them. Let's see, lightning size alteration, and was that the alteration of gravity that we just picked up? The screen showed the trans who were thrown into the skies before being smashed with green flames and multicolored lightning as Major Inu nodded at this. Yes, ma'am. The colony barrier picked up slight modulations in gravitational waves. All right, his code name shall be Gravitational Anomaly. Newly awakened in the last day connected to Rose? Another potential anomaly. How many does this make? This one seems even crazier than the other ones we have discovered recently. Her voice carried a sense of exhaustion, even though she was far from here in an entirely secure location within the most guarded area in the city of Neon. Major Inu replied without missing a beat. Adding the southern colonies under the Linares colony overseers, this is the 18th anomaly. The most recent one was the upper-tier body modification anomaly that entered the catacombs and came out a greater meridian transformation advanced human with triple ability factors, the one before that dash. Okay. Stop. If I let you keep going, we won't be done here anytime soon. So, codename Gravitational Anomaly, Achilles Maxwell. 21 years old, a fresh chick that had newly awakened strong emotional attachments to another fresh chick, Rose Adrian. Hell, love story? That never ends well in this chaotic world of ours. So, what are the chances of recruiting and working with him? With them? Many of the anomalies we have observed carry different sorts of instabilities. What were the chances of working with them? If it was any other time, Major Inu might have said the chances were low or unknown. But he pulled up the image of Major David on another screen, his eyes flashing brightly as a small drone filled with a crimson gold vial could be seen reaching the bloodied body of Major David on one screen, with him barely opening his mouth to drink the vial from the drone as his life stopped being in a critical state. In this instance, I will say the chance is very high. Their first introduction to the Linares colony overseers has been through Major David. We have a lot of shitty people, but he isn't among them. A connection may have already been forged. I will brief him and get a sense of things. Do you want to be updated regarding this at every step? He asked the unknown woman whose voice echoed out authoritatively as from an extremely distant place. Yes, This gravitational anomaly seems a bit different from others. And keep a close eye on that, Rose. This world is heading towards a direction we cannot even fathom. Anomalies. Humans merging with evolutionist beasts. The catacombs expanding and getting even more potent. Ancient legends turning out to be a reality, and all of this is just the tip of the iceberg. We will need every possible force on our side to get ready for what is coming. The voice was somber as Major Inu nodded with a calm gaze. He continued to stare at what was unfolding down below. The scene of trance floating in skies, bellowing as they were burned by green flames and decimated by multicolored lightning. When the dust cleared, burnt husks began to drop from the skies as sparkling evolutionist crystals flowed from every single husk and gathered towards Achilles Maxwell, as if he were a magnet. The turrets of the aerial Linares drones stopped firing. The advanced humans who were already here and those newly arriving came to a stop and stared around in a stupor, many only now realizing that somehow no more evolutionist beasts were rushing out of the ley line fracture. On the ground, Eloise breathed heavily as she dragged her tired body towards a bloodied Major David, her eyes vibrating with shock as she wanted to ask him just what the hell those two were. But her words never came out as she saw from the skies. The figure of Achilles and Rose seemed to have honed in at them as they came straight in this direction. Eloise blinked multiple times over as in what seemed like a few seconds. Achilles and Rose reached above them and floated down, bundles of evolutionist crystals disappearing into an evolutionist storage box on the side of Achilles as he looked towards Major David coldly. A left arm and a leg were missing from Major David, and yet Achilles asked a question at this time. Will the Linares colony overseers help me? He asked what seemed to be a simple enough question, and yet it felt like something much more than this. But Major David did not miss a beat as he replied vehemently. With absolutely everything. He spoke with surety, as if this would be a given. Achilles looked at him sharply before he nodded, coming down and leaning over as he touched Major David 1. World healing, I was utilized. An utter brilliance bloomed as a blinding light covered Major David, his torn limbs beginning to regrow. Near the site of the most recent ley line fracture within the colony city of Neon, warning and emergency lights covered the region in the dark of the night. Many aerial evolutionist vehicles and advanced humans moving about busily. A lesser meridian transformation advanced human stood near the point where the land had fractured as currently. There was a massive purple crystalline dome covering the fracture, as if this was there preventing anything from coming out. She turned towards another lesser meridian transformation advanced human nearby as she spoke out. Hey, did you see it? The unique elemental advanced human who apparently handled this ley line fracture all by himself. She asked a question that many who had come later on asked, with a lesser meridian transformation advanced human that was asked this sighing with a sense of somberness and envy. I don't even know how to describe it, but yeah, he looked young too. Maybe flight, lightning, and wind control triple ability factors? Maybe gravity? Nobody really knows. But the craziest thing was the fight before the ley line fracture was resolved. Some say a peak meridian transformation expert fell. The words were heavy as the advanced human who had asked shook her head in disbelief. She squinted her eyes as she looked around and asked in a low tone, Surely, he is well known, right? Is he high on the Meridian Banner rankings? Do we have a superstar make an appearance today? The Meridian Banner ranking. A list that held the identities of all the publicly known Meridian Transformation advanced humans in the colony city of Neon, as well as their power. Hey, I really don't know. But don't ask too many questions. The Silver Watchdogs are here, and they seem to be giving extra attention to anyone asking too many questions about this. The last thing I saw was that unique elemental advanced human getting on an aerial Linares drone with a few Silver Watchdogs. Silver Watchdogs. How other advanced humans referred to those working for the Linares colony overseers. With the silver Linares moon on their armaments, they were very easy to pick out with their serious expressions and eyes that always seemed as if they considered themselves above everything else. After these words came out, the discussion stopped for the most part as crowds of advanced humans moved about, looking at the scorched corpses of Trance as they came to observe that not a single one had any remaining evolutionist crystals within them. A ley line fracture came and went so rapidly that only now were the few prominent news crews allowed on the scene, getting footage of the carnage as they began to report everything they saw. For the colony city of Neon, it seemed like it was just another accident to add on to the many they held. For many, for some, it was an extremely important point in time. Within the colony city of Neon, in a region supremely far away from the slums that Achilles knew, he stood on the roof of a 9-story building that was surrounded by barricades and aerial Linares drones flying around it. Numerous Linares military trucks and vessels stationed all around this building, as it was known to be Fort Silvermoon, one of the 9 bases of operations that the Linares colony overseers held across the city of Neon, a location where their core forces are normally clustered. The aerial Linares drones that had taken Achilles and Rose landed on the helipad of Fort Silvermoon as Achilles did not go anywhere else, making clear to Major David that he needed to know exactly what had happened just now and how the Linares colony overseers would be able to help. Because if they couldn't, you're frowning a lot, little fatty. Rose spoke out beside him as her body held a much more reinforced, natural, evolutionist suit made by him, her figure striking in the neon radiance of the night as Achilles forced a smile. He truly was thinking about too many things as he knew he had to decide how to move from here on out carefully. He had to choose which force to be embroiled in, as right now. The feared Linares colony overseers were a good possibility. But he had to first see. Before he could reply, footsteps could be heard behind them as even without turning, Achilles could already feel the body heat of multiple figures, his head turning as Major David walked into the wide area of the roof with LOEs and a few new faces behind him, all of the lesser meridian transformation and holding packets of information. The expression on Major David was both heavy and filled with a sense of alarm as he stared at Achilles and spoke in a somber tone. The one who attacked you and was subsequently taken down by you has been confirmed to be Solomon, the lightning titan of the Titan Industries, father of Amos, and one of the largest shareholders of the Titan Industries. Words that caused Achilles to burst with a heavy purple radiance that shook the structures around them echoed out. The gaze of Rose also becoming sour as Achilles turned towards Major David and asked sharply, "What is the stance of the Linares colony overseers regarding this blatant attack?" He now wanted to see what the Linares colony overseers were made of, how they did things. He knew that nothing was for free in this world. Everything was give and take. So if he could take from the Linares colony overseers, he would take. All he had to be sure of was what exactly they wanted him to give. As if Major David could see exactly what was on his mind, he replied with a flash of anger as he looked out into the dark night. Titan Industries, the Golden Trading Company, and the Noblesse are moving more and more as if laws do not exist anymore. They forget the authority of the Linares colony overseers, so they have to be reminded. The actions of the late Solomon are never tolerated, and his death is justified. And then there's his son, the one who started it all, Amos. Rose harumphed with a sense of disgust when she heard this, as she couldn't help but ask, "Where's that little bitch?" Her slightly foul mouth came out as Major David nodded, while tapping on the tablet he held, which showed captured images of a shocked and fearful Amos running across rooftops. He was tracked to have gone into the core domain of the Titan Industries. A warrant for his arrest is out for inducing a ley line fracture and for the intent to murder and cause mass casualties. A warrant was out for his arrest. Achilles heard this as he shook his head, his heart feeling like this was not enough. Just like his father, Amos, who was the reason for all of this, had to go. Major David could see the piercing light in the eyes of Achilles as he became serious while motioning for those who were behind him to give him the folders they held. He then dismissed them as he brought the folders towards Achilles and Rose. "You all have been through a lot in a short span of time. We will take care of things on your behalf, as right now. Take a look at these. Isolated compounds under the Linares colony overseers for the most prized majors to reside in. Choose one that you like and rest for the night. Come tomorrow morning, I will have a better image of exactly what response we will make, and we can talk specifics regarding what you wish to do." As he said this, Major David's face also showed a hint of hesitation. Achilles paid attention to this as he accepted the folders, opening them to pictures and layouts of enormous mansions surrounded by armored fences glowing with neon radiance. Each one seemed to be more massive than the last, as he handed them all to Rose, who looked through them with her vibrant green eyes. "What else?" he asked Major David, who seemed to be hesitating, and he replied slowly thereafter, as if in a hushed whisper. "My mentor, a peak Meridian Transformation Major of the Linares Colony Overseers, is interested in meeting with you tomorrow, if possible. The discussion with him will likely include in which capacity you wish to be involved with our Linares Colony Overseers. I know there's a lot that is wrong in this world, and nothing is perfect, but please remember the words we exchanged before in the catacombs when you make your decision tomorrow. We could use people like you and Rose to make real, long-lasting change." His gaze was an earnest one as Achilles nodded at his words and grabbed a folder that Rose gave to him as he didn't even give it a look. "We choose this for now." Major David took the folder from him and nodded, typing a few things on his tablet before he motioned towards the very same aerial Linares drone that carried them here. "It's only a short 2-minute trip from here. Eloise lives in a nearby compound as well. Let's go." It had been an extremely long day. There seemed to be a tremendous amount of things to be done as on Achilles' side. There was the matter of his power, his assimilation. He was thinking deeply about it as he barely noticed the aerial Linares drone lifting off the roof and taking them deeper into the areas exclusive for the Linares Colony Overseers in the colony city of Neon. The deeper they went in, the more secure he felt, as the behemoth that was the Linares Colony Overseers were not to be underestimated. They crossed the brightly lit neon skies before Achilles knew it. The aerial Linares drone touched down inside a gated yard the size of a football field, a road leading into a sizable mansion in the distance being visible as it was lit up with purple lights all around. A man in a suit opened the wide doors of the aerial Linares drone as he nodded respectfully to Major David before giving a bow to Achilles and Rose. "If Sir Maxwell and Miss Rose follow me, I will lead and introduce you to your lodgings. We have food of all variety prepared, as please tell us if you have any requests. There's an in-house chef capable of making anything 24/7. Achilles and Rose stepped out of the drone and looked at each other, not at all used to this level of treatment and speed being directed towards them. From behind, the voice of Major David roared out as Eloise blinked beside him while the aerial Linares drone lifted up. "We will come back tomorrow to check in. Get some rest tonight." With such words, a huge drone lifted off the ground while Achilles and Rose arrived inside a sizable mansion. The entire mansion seemed the same size as the entire apartment complex they lived in, and yet it was all to themselves apart from the help that lived there. The one to receive them was actually an older man in his 40s as he smiled, while walking them across the marble floor and into the mansion that had a pair of staircases left and right winding up to the second floor. "We have many facilities throughout the estate, built by the famous craftsman, the blacksmith of steel, of very eccentric, advanced humans. This has been called the Silverstone Estate. Would you like the tour? Or?" He saw their faces and expressions as he gauged their level of interest. Achilles looked at Rose, who seemed to find this whole place a little off compared to their broken-down apartment, as he replied, "Take us to the balcony for now. We can have the food there." They were being treated like literal royalty, as it was hard to get used to, with the butler bowing lightly with a smile while leading them to the right staircase. "You can call me Butler Ron." The balcony facing the front of the estate will be overlooking the garden that is not too visible in the night, but it still has a breathtaking view regardless. They crossed the winding steps and a few hallways before. "Here we are. I'll have the food brought over right away." Wide white and gold doors opened to lead to a balcony lit up with purple stones. A luxurious set of soft couches on either side of the balcony was present, as they seemed enough to sink in seamlessly. Achilles nodded while he and Rose stepped in. "Thanks." Butler Ron nodded with a smile as Achilles entered the balcony, looking out into the enclosed Radiant Estate and the distant military complexes under the banner of the Linares Colony Overseers as he thought about many things. Rose came to stand beside him and leaned her head onto his shoulders as she asked lightly, "Are you really all right, little fatty?" She asked with a sense of concern, as too many things had happened. But Achilles just nodded with a smile as he raised his hands. "Yeah, I'm just trying to figure myself out. After that, I feel like everything becomes easy. Himself, his power. So far, every single thing he had tried to assimilate, he had managed to do so. He had even assimilated the world, which left behind a very daunting and terrific question. Was there anything that he could not assimilate? It was dark in the night. The skies were filled with neon radiance, but alongside this, there was also a gorgeous array of silver rays of light that passed through the massive dome-like barrier above and washed over the city. Silver rays of radiance came from a distant moon that lit up the skies beautifully. And yet Achilles stood atop the balcony of a huge mansion compound that the prized majors of the Linares colony overseers would normally reside in, rose by his side as he asked himself a critical question. What, if anything, could he not assimilate? When he tried assimilating evolucious crystals, he did so with ease. The same went for all the evolucious beasts he came across so far. When he was in an extremely drastic situation with his life on the line, he tried assimilating the very world he stood on, as even that was possible. He was worried about what his assimilation of the world could potentially do, but every time he did assimilate it, he felt like he was drawing out a tiny stream from an endlessly vast sea. That his assimilation did not have too large of an effect, if any at all. Possibly. There was still much that he did not know. He had plugged the ley line fracture and massacred every single evolucious beast rushing out from the catacombs, as at this moment, he had his hands on a large number of corpses of evolucious beasts and evolucious crystals. It was only after an hour passed that the surge of beasts prompted by devil crystals died down, and by that time, Achilles had killed thousands. Thousands! The number of corpses was in the thousands, as the evolucious crystals were even more so. But he had moved with caution because at that time, his existence corruption value had risen far too high. He had more than enough corpses as he was able to bring the organic phanerogam life form echelon to 3, and he was also able to get the organic crystals echelon to 3. But he did not continue assimilating the thousands of corpses. His eyes were on the existence corruption value that needed to be brought down. It was increased by assimilating too many things at once, and also increased heavily whenever he assimilated something too grand, something too big. An organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body was definitely too big, as this had heavily increased his existence corruption value. The one constant that could reduce it remained to be the evolucious crystals, and Achilles leaned into these, as this was the only other thing he was currently assimilating apart from the organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body. Euthymia. The effects were gradual, but guaranteed, as after he assimilation a few thousand evolucious crystals, his panel reflected many changes. Achilles Maxwell. Assimilation. Organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body echelon 1, 8.009%. Obtain the qualities of planetary force field I, gravitational field manipulation I, world healing I, limited astronomical physiology I. Organic crystal, evolucious crystal, echelon 3, 4.065%. Obtain qualities of regeneration 3, energy conversion 3, flexibility 3, light manipulation 3, biological nurturing 3, crystal manipulation 3, and crystal vault 3. Organic phanerogam, life form echelon 3. Obtain qualities of dermal armor 3, regeneration 3, photosynthetic 3, lightning physiology 3, abnormal endurance 3, vine generation 3, and pheromone generation 3. Organic arachnida, life form echelon 1. Gained qualities of poison generation, appendage generation, exoskeletal armor, physical adherence, and thermoreception. Existence corruption value, 0%. Complexity, extremely weak terrestrial life form. Organic phanerogam life form and organic crystals reached the 3rd echelon, elevating all qualities they held while granting an additional quality each. Crystal Vault 3 was something entirely unique, as Achilles felt like there was a massive space surrounded by purple crystalline walls, and he could move seas of the purple brilliance surging throughout him into this space, as if it could be stored in addition to what he already had in his body. It was meant to store seas of potent purple brilliance, but he came to find that he could also move evolucious crystals and even the corpses of evolucious beasts into this space in and out freely. Whether it was the intended purpose or not, it was a grandiose capability. Pheromone Generation 3 was even more complex, as it came with multiple different aspects that he wanted to try out later. But at this moment, the only two things he was assimilating: the organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body, and the evolucious crystals. The few thousand evolucious crystals alone allowed his existence corruption value to return to 0%, as with this, he was more confident to test out a few more things. The question was whether there was a limit to the types of things he could assimilate. He breathed in the night air that felt warm and cold at the same time. He felt Rose's head leaning against him. He felt her warmth. He thought of the wildest thing he could possibly test his theory on, as, so far, whatever he wanted to assimilate, he had been able to. So what outlandish thing was there apart from the very world he stood on for him to try and assimilate? He stared at the night sky, filled with neon lights, the silence nearby, and the occasional hums of aerial Linares drones flying around. He looked around this brightly lit night as he came to see the rays of silver brightness cascading down. He blinked and focused on these silver sources of light that passed through the transparent barrier of the colony city of Neon and made this whole colony even brighter. The light of a distant moon. His eyes quickly lit up as he raised his left hand towards the night sky. A ray of light from a distant moon landing on his palm as he felt his heart speed up. What else could be as outlandish as the light from a distant moon that nobody below could see the true size of? With such a thought, he gave a small but firm command. Assimilate. HUM. A buzz of silver radiance flashed as truly, unbelievably. The silver light was captured as it began to drill into his hand. Silver radiance, cascading from the skies, was taken into his body, and right away, he felt another identity bloom within him. His whole body felt an eruption of silver radiance inside of him that he never felt before, with his meridians that he never truly gave time to sit and observe flashing with a tendril of silver light deep within. And he knew that undoubtedly it had worked. His eyes burned with anticipation as he gazed at the panel, going past the many words listing other assimilated things as he finally saw what was new. He absorbed the light of the moon. But truly, the moon itself did not emit light, but instead emitted the reflection of the light from the sun. Not many people knew that the moon itself did not shine and was instead a planetary body that reflected the light of another, more massive planetary body. Non-luminous moon light echelon, 1%, gained qualities of lunar generation, innate lunar barrier, luniportation, and reflect. Truly, he merely put his hand out, and he could even assimilate the light of the moon, evolucious crystals, corpses of evolucious beasts, the very planet he stood on, even light from a distant moon. Every single thing that he tried to assimilate, he was able to do so, as this led to a shocking conclusion. Unless it could somehow be proved wrong in the future, unless somewhere down the line, he assimilated something that utterly rejected him. As of right now, his mind buzzed as a thought repeated again and again, and he uttered it out in a low tone as he was in a slight daze. I can assimilate everything. Wah, a heavy assertion, something that seemed far too fantastical. Even as he said it, little fatty, what did you say? Rose, who had been leaning on his right shoulder this whole time, asked in surprise, as she had been too busy watching the silver rays of light that looked like they were dancing on Achilles' hands. Achilles shook his head with a smile as he kept his left hand raised, continuing to absorb the light of the moon as he monitored the changes in the existence corruption value that slowly increased by decimal points. I'm getting a better handle on my power, that's all. The more I understand it, the more I can be confident that nothing can hurt us again. Rose nodded with a smile that soon faded as she turned to him seriously. I also want to be able to protect you, little fatty. Do you think you could do what you did before? She blinked and looked down as she said this. She was talking about how he had infused her with that radiant purple light that allowed her to become a meridian transformation advanced human. Achilles smiled as he saw green flames beginning to dance on her head and nodded. I'll give you as much as you can take later. He had advanced tremendously compared to the first time he used biological nurturing 2 on Rose, and it had now even become biological nurturing 3. He may be able to awaken multiple meridians for her and allow her to be ridiculously powerful in a short period of time. This was what he thought. But his words, "Little fatty, don't say it like that." His words caused Rose to turn a shade of red while she buried her head even deeper into his shoulder. At this time, they heard a knock behind them as the voice of butler Ron echoed out. "Sir, miss, the food is coming in now." The wide-open balcony had what seemed to be normal humans dressed in neat white and black attire appear, carrying metal trays filled with steaming food as they walked in neat rows to lay it on the table at the center of the balcony. 2 exotic seats also brought over and placed on opposite ends. It was so quick that in less than a minute, the trays of food were brought in while the servers cleared out, and Butler Ron bowed while also making his exit. "Please enjoy, and just call out if you need anything." With such words, they were alone again as Achilles heard the clear sound of Rose's stomach rumbling as she looked at the ridiculous amount of food there. And its quality too. Lobsters, steaks, meats they had never seen before that shone with dazzling gold lights. Things that seemed to be purely from a dream lay before them as Achilles pushed Rose ahead. "You get started. I'll join you in a bit." Rose nodded in a daze as she sat down and reached out to the nearest succulent meat, not realizing just how hungry she had been and how much energy the body of an advanced human burned. Meanwhile, Achilles came to stand where rays of the silver light of the moon came down, his body silently assimilating these rays of light as it was a somewhat slower process. But gradually, the percentage went towards 100%. At the same time, existence corruption value creeped up as Achilles pulled from the thousands of remaining evolutionist crystals he had obtained within the enclosed space of the ley line fracture, pulling them from the crystal vault that was meant to store pure organic purple energy as he assimilated them straight from there. And the rising corruption value was quickly knocked back down as, gradually, Achilles felt like he was getting a hang of his power. After a few minutes, BZZT, his body flashed with a silver radiance as he stepped into the first echelon of the non-luminous moonlight, the depth of the power within him becoming even more brilliant as he breathed in and stopped there. Every time he achieved an echelon without assimilating anymore, it was akin to a reset where at this moment he was once more considered to only be assimilating the organic crystals and the organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body. And what he truly wanted to continue assimilating was the planetary body, as the power it granted was absolutely massive. Achilles joined Rose in eating the food provided by the Linares colony overseers, as he couldn't help but look at her face of sheer focus when she decided what to have next, and the fact that after she did, all that food would disappear as if her stomach was a bottomless hole. As for him, he couldn't truly say he felt hungry. It should have something to do with all the different qualities he had from all the things he assimilated, with something like photosynthetic 3 and energy conversion 3, making him feel like he was always filled with energy. Eating seemed much more voluntary for him, as he took it slow while observing the newly gained abilities from assimilating the light of the moon. He already had a planetary force field eye from the organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body, but he now also had an innate lunar barrier, a layer of thin silver light that covered his body and made him even harder to get through to. Lunar generation allowed him to make and store the dazzling silver light, as it was usable in attacking or defending. Reflect. He saw the image of a mirror-like silver light appearing that could reflect all damage back to wherever it came from. Now, luniportation was the most unique one, as it allowed movement based on where the light of the moon was. When he looked out from the balcony and into a distant area in the skies, even a mile away, he felt like he could flitter his body across space to appear in the region of that silver radiance easily. This was lunaportation. There were just more versatile tools under his belt as he studied them, and himself, continuing to look at the two multicolor meridians that seemed to express all qualities he held. Like this, minutes trickled by. And at the end, little fatty, I think I need to borrow your nickname for a bit. Rose lay sprawled on the chair as he breathed out with contentment, letting all her worries flow out as Achilles smiled at her while getting up. Come on, let's go pump you with a little more. He spoke casual words that caused her to roll her eyes as she also got up, with Achilles calling out for Ron as the two were led across the winding mansion to end up in front of a door inlaid with purple and gold. Your chambers, sir, in Mississippi. You will find state-of-the-art facilities within, as if anything is missing, just give us a call. Butler Ron gave a light bow, while Achilles and Rose entered what should have been a bedroom. And yet, sheesh! Rose shook her head at the luxury of all, as there was a huge bed in the center lined with silver sheets and what seemed to be 10 pillows, with 2 bathrooms on either side that looked more like the entrances to a spa. Rose looked at the bathroom as her eyes lit up brightly. Little fatty, let me grab a shower real quick. It feels like it's been ages. I won't take too long. Her eyes were already locked onto the bathroom in the distance as he nodded, looking at the natural, evolutionist suit wrapping around her body as he loosened it and allowed it to drape off her. She hummed as she disappeared into the bathroom, while Achilles manipulated the planetary force field around his body to extend outwards to cover this entire room and bathrooms. Even if a missile was set off on this mansion, nothing would be capable of getting past this planetary force field that he laid out. He went into the bathroom on the left as he saw himself in the mirror, blinking a few times as it seemed like he was looking at another person entirely. His build seemed to be getting slightly larger and more toned as his skin looked bright. He saw multiple sets of loose sleepwear in a closet in the bathroom as he looked at his body, which had been through battles the whole day, and he also made the decision to feel the warm heat of water wash everything away. After a few minutes, he walked out of the bathroom while buttoning the silky, smooth top of the sleepwear that had an inscription of a half moon on its chest. And as he walked out, he just so managed to see the figure of Rose seated on the bed with a big grin on her face as she looked at him. She put 2 thumbs up as she saw how the silver sleepwear fell onto his muscular figure. And when Achilles saw her in similar sleepwear, he had to steel himself so that he was not too dazed because this woman, goodness, she was on a different level of beauty. He controlled himself as best as he could while jumping onto the bed lightly, coming to sit in front of her as he asked while looking into her dazzling green, flaming eyes. How do you want to receive it? He asked boldly as she lost her courage right away, pouting as she looked down before pointing to her lips. At the very least, she could be that bold. Achilles nodded at such an action as he would never veer off such a challenge, raising her chin as once more his lips came in contact with her soft lips. An explosive feeling of radiance erupted out as in the next moment, Biological Nurturing 3 was activated. Dazzling waves of purple light began to flow out from Achilles' lips and into Rose's body, the light being tremendously denser and brighter than ever before, as after just a few seconds, Rose felt an itching on her left hand as a verdant meridian bloomed there. Her mind could barely focus on this, as she was in a daze just from the kiss and the vibrant seas of energy flowing into her, her body becoming filled up while the purple waves of radiance altered everything in terrific ways. Anytime she felt like she was getting full, something would click as if a doorway was being opened, and a meridian would bloom and cause a burst of energy and power within her. Both her right hands were lit up with meridians, as after that, her right leg and left leg followed, and she put her hands around Achilles' neck to kiss him even more fervently, waves of more purple radiance being transferred into her as from the top of her chest, and running towards her stomach, a 5th meridian bloomed. Her body released ecstatic waves of power, but it seemed like what it could take was still far from enough as it hungrily devoured the purple light from Achilles. until this brilliant light filled every part of her body and ultimately came to cluster around her eyes, a set of organs that very few could manage to awaken the meridians of. The purple seas of energy clustered around Rose's eyes and converged their power into them gloriously. The eyes were considered an extremely important set of organs, as they were the entry point into what many considered the start of the peak of meridian transformation. From lesser meridian transformation, after someone formed at least 3 meridians across their body, they were considered to be greater meridian transformation advanced humans. But once even a single organ awakened its meridian, one's power would transform tremendously. With the meridians of the eyes, one became able to see at an extremely vast distance, as they could easily pick out the changes in energy. And the more organs one awakened the meridians of, the grander their power became in meridian transformation. For Rose, her eyes were entirely closed as she was lost in the current action she was doing, only feeling like her eyes were itchy before in the next instant they burst with incandescent verdant meridians. Both of her eyes at the same time, and biological nurturing 3 continued. After the meridians of the eyes were awakened, it cycled across her body like a raging river, bolstering absolutely everything, as only after it seemed content did it begin surging into other organs. With such a process ongoing, Rose entirely lost track of time. A night passed, with one room emitting a radiant purple and verdant brilliance for the first half of the night before things died down thereafter. The colorful neon skies of the colony city of Neon shone resplendently, even with the incident that occurred, and they slowly died down as the golden rays of the sun pierced through the transparent dome-like barrier above. Rose woke up within the Silverstone estate slowly as she let out a sigh of contentment. But she blinked and shot up from the bed as if she remembered something. She shot up from the bed and never came back down as below her feet. Silent green flames blazed as they somehow kept her afloat. The meridians on her feet pulsed with power as she was shocked, almost losing her balance before she stabilized herself as truly. "I'm floating," she nearly yelled out in her shock as she looked around her. The bed was entirely empty as all she remembered. She touched her lips as she remembered the long kiss and the purple waves of brilliance that flooded into her, and she seemed to have entirely tuned out and fallen asleep after all that, as she remembered nothing else. She couldn't find Achilles on the bed as she looked around, feeling his heat in a distant corner of the room as she saw him with his silver nightwear that she similarly adorned, and he was sitting next to open windows as the rays of the golden sun landed on him. His skin looked utterly scintillating as it looked like the golden light of the sun was rolling over him and being absorbed smoothly, his whole visage seeming utterly unreal to look at. Rose looked towards him in a daze, not realizing her figure was naturally floating towards him as she ogled his body up and down. She was in a sitting position in the air, with green flames swirling below her as it only felt natural to do what she currently did. By the time she neared Achilles' position, his eyes opened wide while the last rays of the sun danced on him, and he looked up with a smile. "What are you doing up there?" he asked the girl, who seemed to be extremely focused at taking in his figure. Out of the 2 of them, she was the one with the genes of beauty, so what exactly was she gawking at? Towards his question, Rose shook her head seriously as she floated inches away while circling him. "I'm trying to see what I did in my previous life to get someone like you. Maybe I saved a village, fed the poor? I just can't understand." She seemed to seriously be considering this as Achilles couldn't help but shake his head. "Have you seen yourself?" His eyes looked over her figure as he pointed to her chest, with Rose blinking before she looked down to see the outline of her lungs being brilliantly lit by meridians. Her lungs, alongside her kidney, spleen, liver, and multiple other parts of her body, all seemed to be brightly lit up with stellar green meridian that emanated a heavy sense of power. Whoa! She looked at herself in shock as she was glowing all over, with the only thing that had yet to light up being her heart. Just her heart. This was how much biological nurturing 3 had elevated her, as she felt a sense of power and control unlike anything from before, and it was the reason why she was effortlessly floating in the air. But the one behind all of this was sitting there calmly bathing in the rays of the sun as Rose couldn't help but sigh. "Thanks, little fatty, but what are you doing sunbathing here?" She came to sit beside him and look out the open window as Achilles raised his right hand, and in the next moment, a radiant, warm, golden light bloomed from it. A light akin to the small, clustered rays of the sun. "I've been trying to test the limits of things as truly I have not found it yet." His eyes showed a sense of amazement as Rose smiled, hugging his toned arm. The happier and stronger he was, the happier and stronger she felt. "My little fatty is the best." Rose said this with conviction as Achilles smiled while looking at the new entry in his panel. Sunlight Echelon 1, gained qualities of Solar Generation Eye, Innate Solar Barrier Eye, Solar Empowerment Eye, and Solar Conversion Eye. Sunlight. Once more, he had tried yet another assimilation, and it worked without any problems as he gained yet another boost in power. On his body, a third meridian had bloomed. Currently, his two hands and right leg brimmed with sizable meridians that seemed to be twice as thick as Rose or any other meridian transformation advanced human they had come across. It seemed harder for him to awaken his meridians, with each one needing a requirement that seemed to be tens of times more compared to others. A very clear example was how he, with only 2 meridians awakened last night, was able to use biological nurturing 3 to awaken multiple meridians for Rose. The foundation of his body and power seemed to far exceed anyone else as he was curious about what waited for him at the peak of meridian transformation. The first few hours of the day passed in the Silverstone estate, quietly as a few hours after sunrise. 2 massive obsidian purple aerial Linares drones landed on the vast front yard of the estate. Major David came out of one and welcomed a major far higher than him from the other aerial Linares drone. Major Inu met Major David's eyes as everyone had been briefed last night, but the commendations for Major Inu were still many as David just waved them off, knowing the job was not done. The 2 majors, with their respective forces, walked into the Silverstone estate at the front. They were met with Butler Ron, who seemed to be sweating profusely as his eyes still vibrated with shock. Manor Inu frowned at such a scene as his voice echoed out commandingly. What happened? Had someone fallen out of line? Did an accident occur? The issue at hand today was far too important for things to fail, as he had to know. But Butler Ron shook his head and wiped his forehead with a handkerchief as he led them into the estate. You will have to see it in order to believe it. Such a reaction only caused them to be more serious, as the majority of those with them were held back by Major Inu, and only he and David walked into the estate and were led into a wide dining room. A dining room had a table filled with simmering food at this moment. Achilles and Rose were sitting at one end of the table as Rose playfully tried to feed a cut of steak and eggs to Achilles. You have to get back to being little fatty again. Her words could barely be heard as when Major David and Major Inu walked in. David dropped the tablet he held in his hands due to sheer shock as he stared inexplicably towards Rose. He stared at the verdant meridians on her arms and legs, and then the many other meridians all over her body as her eyes, lungs, liver, spleen, and many more things had bright meridians. What the fuck? He couldn't help but curse as it felt like everything he knew about reality was breaking off right before him. Rose, newly awakened advanced human yesterday, who also managed to become a lesser meridian transformation advanced human on the same day. And now, after a night passed, she had already lit up multiple more meridians, including multiple organs, as she was now a peak meridian transformation advanced human. Major David could barely process this, as beside him, Major Inu, with his own organ meridians awakened, recovered quickly, while his eyes flashed with brilliance. I didn't expect the confirmation of both of you being transcendent advanced humans to occur this morning, but that makes this easier. Hello there, I am Major Inu, and I'm here to outline the possibilities of the future for both of you with your interests in mind. Major Inu spoke without missing a beat, even giving a kick to David, who shook his head inexplicably while grabbing the tablet, that fell down. Ahead, Achilles and Rose became serious as Rose put the fork with food down, and Achilles stared straight into the eyes of the peak meridian transformation advanced human ahead as he confirmed he didn't feel any sense of danger from him. Not that this being would never make a move against them, but even if he did, he was deemed as something that could not threaten his body. This confirmation was a good one, as he needed to meet more peak meridian transformation advanced humans to continue gauging just who could possibly gauge a threat to him now, with his mind cautiously preparing for whatever terrifying level of power advanced humans could reach after awakening all their meridians. How many more meridians were there after the heart? With questions in mind already, he nodded towards the new Major Inu as he spoke out. And what are the possibilities of the future? Give and take. He knew such a relationship well as now. He needed to gauge what a luxurious mansion such as this and whatever else the Linares colony overseers had to offer would require of them. Major Inu's meridians pulsed as he stepped forward to the other end of the table and spoke out. I won't waste your time. The world is big, the world is ugly, and it is becoming increasingly dangerous. The Linares colony overseers have many forces, tools, and equipment under their banner that will prove useful to you, and we could use transcendent advanced humans of your caliber on our side. You would be distinguished as Lunarian enforcers. You don't have to do anything you don't want to, and would occasionally be called on to help against extremely strong anomalies that are likely to cause mass casualty events or are already in the process of causing such an event. For example, Major Inu tapped on the tablet he held and stood it up as it began projecting on the wall to the right. Titan Industries has been labeled as a potential mass casualty event initiator. We have been monitoring their people like the Lightning Titan, Solomon, whom you finished off yesterday. His son is holed off in their headquarters as if you take on the roles of Lunarian enforcers. You will join others on an incursion today to arrest and take down the core powers of the Titan Industries. Find out which dangerous research and tools they got their hands on and cut off their connections. Achilles' eyes flashed brightly at such words as he and Rose were surprised, so much so that he had to ask. We just awakened recently, but the little knowledge we have tells us that the big organizations within the colony city of Neon are untouchable. They have their own powerful forces as their influences stretch to even other colony cities. The Linares colony overseers have never done something as drastic and heavy-handed as this in recent memory. So why this and why now? A critical question was asked, and Major Inu nodded with appreciation as he replied. Partly as a sign-on bonus for you two to get the sordid history with Amos entirely wiped away, and partly because truly we believe their potential to cause a mass casualty event has reached a critical level. A sign-on bonus for them, and because the potential of the Titan Industries causing a mass casualty event had truly risen too high. Achilles thought about these words carefully as he asked one last critical question. In the headquarters of the Titan Industries, what powerful enemy are we expecting to face? Anyone more powerful than a peak meridian transformation advanced human? He wanted to gauge the level of danger. And Major Inu was composed at this as he tapped on the tablet in his hand, and Achilles' phone vibrated right after as a document was sent over. Since you're newly awakened, you may not know the full scope of advanced humans and the categorization of their power. This document is up to date regarding the categorization of advanced humans that only 3-star majors normally have access to. Even David here is missing something like this. Major Inu stared towards David with a slight smile as the latter coughed. Achilles opened the document sent to him as it released a flood of pages of information, going from body modification advanced humans, meridian transformation advanced humans, and what lay above that ethereal physiology advanced humans. Ethereal. The document went into deep, intricate details regarding every single stage, even listing the number of meridians one needed to awaken or could awaken within the meridian transformation stage. It was comprehensive as there were many more things to read about and understand in this document, but Achilles' eyes were drawn towards a single thing. A simple description of an advanced human at the ethereal physiology stage. By nature, Ethereal physiology is attained after one unlocks as many meridians throughout their bodies as they could. Burning every single meridian potentially allows one to obtain their ethereal physiology that is entirely dependent on the number of meridian they held. Their foundation, really. But once one attains their ethereal physiology, even 100 peak meridian transformation advanced humans would not be able to even lay a single scratch on an ethereal physiology master. This is a verified assertion made by none other than me, Master Dugu. The meridians on Major Inu flashed as his vision changed, and he was able to see exactly what page of the document Achilles was on and even follow his eye line to gauge exactly what he was reading. I see you have honed in on the words of Master Dugu. Yes, all ethereal physiology advanced humans are known as masters, simply because of how much of a deterrent and force they are as they protect us from the worst of evolutionous beasts. But if one seeks to harm us, other masters will move to prevent them. In this incursion plan today, the Linares colony overseers will have an ethereal physiology master leading it, as they will be taking care of the only ethereal physiology master in the headquarters of Titan Industries. Our task, you too included if you choose to join, is to subdue the peak meridian transformation advanced humans and below. Manor Inu spoke resolutely and with confidence as Achilles raised his head from the phone and passed it to Rose, who was immensely curious. He looked towards Major Inu, who looked back at him, his eyes clear as he walked over and pulled on a chair right in front of Achilles and Rose. He sat opposite him as he maintained heavy eye contact while continuing. In this vast world of ours, everyone is doing something under someone or with someone. Advanced humans are either working for an organization or colony overseers. Working with the Linares colony overseers will be something of tremendous benefit to you all, as, due to your nature of being transcendents, you will also gain access to the terrifying truths we have discovered so far of our world and what could be coming. Do I have the honor of welcoming you as Lunarian enforcers? Major Inu stretched his hand out toward Achilles, a hand pulsing with power. Achilles looked at it and then at Rose, who raised her head to blink, as she already knew what decision Achilles had made. So he reached out and clasped the hand of Major Inu as the two men shook on it. BZZT. Arcs of brilliance boomed from their handshake as a terrifying force was released, the table nearby squeaking and being pushed away as on Major Inu. His mini-meridian lit up brightly with the allure of white radiance as he looked utterly pristine. A terrifying force akin to a beast waking up bloomed within him, and yet Achilles remained seated without a change in expression. He held the qualities of an organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body. Could a meridian transformation advanced human truly hope to ever stand against him in a contest of strength when he had the qualities of planet? Not to mention the many other qualities he had just recently gained. Crack. The floor they stood on cracked as Major Inu's brilliant white meridians stopped their fantastical glow, his hand loosening as when one looked into his eyes, they would be able to see alarm. Truly a transcendent. This little contest I just did was something out of my own heart, and I apologize if it was off-putting. I welcome you to the ranks of the Linares colony overseers. From here on out, your identities will be those of Lunarian enforcers, as Major David here will finish by letting you know of everything else. Major Inu let go of Achilles' hand as Achilles did the same, a small smile on his lips as he nodded towards this Major, who briskly nodded toward his shocked Major David as he made a quick exit. If one looked at him closely, they would come to notice that his right hand was currently hanging limply, and the moment he was out of the dining room, Major Inu's face became ashen as he lost his composure, looking at his right hand that held cracked bones at this moment, as he could barely move it. He pulled out a vial with his left hand to drink, as only then did he start breathing easily, his eyes showing incredulity and alarm as he made his way out. The distinction of a Lunarian enforcer. Achilles looked at a brand new phone that seemed to be uniquely designed just for the forces of the Linares colony overseers. He and Rose got one, as on this phone were multiple apps and folders that he never knew existed. They held information only viable for higher-ups of the Linares colony overseers to view, as Even I don't have access to some of the things granted to official Lunarian enforcers through those Lunarian communication devices. Major David spoke out with a beaming smile as multiple people came up behind him and transported thick obsidian purple cases. He tapped on a stack of one such cases as he continued. As for these, they contain Lunarian Enforcer Meridian Evolucious armament, refined from the tough hides of Meridian Transformation Evolucious beasts. One thing the Linares colony overseers go above board with is a sense of belonging with attire that matches one's rank. And in those cases, Major David pointed to another set of cases that held the engraving of crystal. Those contain a year's worth of advanced salary for someone who would even be above Major Inu in ranking. And these cases here contain Evolucious Empowerment Serums, Evolucious Healing Serums, and a myriad of other serums that will turn out useful to you. Most important of all, it actually circles back to the Lunarian communication devices in your hands. The transportation application. Achilles squinted his eyes as on the sleek obsidian purple device. There was an app with an icon of a half-moon inside of a car that he clicked on. His location was instantly honed in on as only 4 selections could be made on the application. Aerial Linares Drone, Aerial Linares Blimp, Aerial Evolucious Vehicle, Aerial Lunarian Enforcer Warship. Achilles raised his brows at all this while Major David continued speaking. Anywhere within the bounds of the colony city of Neon and any other colony cities under the banner of the Linares Colony Overseers, you can use the transportation application to call any service to your current location. I see in the documents here that they wanted you two to test it by requesting an aerial Lunarian Enforcer warship. Major David raised his brows at this, as it was something even he had not yet seen. Achilles nodded at all of these waves of information as Major David wrapped up. I'll be your liaison for now if you need anything else, but the contact for Major Inu is also preset in your devices, as you can also reach out to him at any time for any needs. The things were fairly straightforward as Achilles nodded while asking David, "How long before the incursion into the Titan Industries today?" "A bit less than 2 hours. I'll notify you 30 minutes before we need to set off." A light of excitement coursed within the eyes of Major David as he nodded towards Achilles and waved his hands for all others to clear out. Only Achilles and Rose were left in the dining room, as Rose had flames dance on her feet as she rose up to open the cases holding the Lunarian Enforcer Meridian Evolucious armaments and the ones with a year's worth of salary of an enforcer. The case with the armaments caused Rose to gasp as she picked out scintillating silver-purple armaments that looked to be made from the richest material possible. If we were something like this, aren't we going to look too pompous? Silver and purple. There were tight-fitting shirts and pants alongside, even dresses of different styles that all screamed the attire of royalty. And yet they were given such equipment as it seemed far too different from what they wore before. The other case she opened showed dazzling evolucious crystals that seemed to be even more potent than lesser ones, these likely being those of greater and peak meridian evolucious beasts. Achilles waved his hands towards them as these cases began to open up while the evolucious crystals floated out and came towards him, only to disappear into his palm as he placed them in the Crystal Vault 3. The evolucious crystals were long-term sources to assimilate from, and also the seemingly purest thing to assimilate that brought down the existence corruption value. Achilles had the last piece of steak on his plate as he rose up. "Why don't you try on what you like and read up on the rest of the documents? I'll do one more thing to get us ready, and then we can set off for this incursion." "Okay." Rose hummed happily at his words as she went through the cases, while Achilles proceeded to go back towards that wide balcony on the same floor as the dining area as he floated off from it and into the garden below. Green grass bent due to his weight as the smell of roses in the surroundings was apparent. It was so extremely peaceful as it showed a world undisturbed, and now he was about to do more than disturb it. He felt the earth beneath his feet, organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body. It was so massive in complexity and so much more different from him that it actively caused his existence corruption value to rise every time he assimilated it. But he held in his stock thousands of evolucious crystals still, and he gained even more of them just now through a year's worth of salary of not one, but 2 Lunarian enforcers. And he felt the urge to assimilate more and more as he learned about the extent of the meridian transformation stage. From what the Linares colony overseers had studied over the years, the average number of meridians that could be awakened inside a human body was 50. After one awakened the meridians of all their organs and breached the heart as well, one could then breach what research termed their innate meridians, unique to one's power and race. They found peak meridian transformation evolutious beasts to, at times, have awakened meridians in places humans did not have, and they elevated power to a unique effect and an alarming degree. Innate meridians. They were unique to everyone based on their ability factor, as those with extremely strong ability factors awakened many more meridians. Innate meridians. As Achilles thought of this, he wondered just how it would work for him who had the qualities of so many different beings. The stronger and more unique an ability factor was, the more meridians one could unlock. His ability factor. Was there anyone else who had something as drastic as the qualities of the organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body they all lived in? The same thing that at this moment. Assimilate. He silently gave the command, as for the first time since the battle against Solomon, he actively devoured this terrifying planet. One of his biggest worries when it came to this was how he would affect everything here. Would his actions ever come close to ruining the integral makeup of this world and start causing it to deteriorate, or even potentially cause it to be unlivable for everyone? After all, he couldn't threaten his and Rose's livelihood by swallowing the entire world. But every time he assimilated it, he once more felt like he was connecting to an endless sea. He was but a speck in this vast sea that he could not even see the ends of. And from this sea, he was currently picking off tiny, minuscule rivers that were always filled and even quicker than the rate at which he swallowed them. And nothing around him changed. The land didn't shrink, nor did it deteriorate. It only continued on calmly. Only he felt and heard the droning sound as waves of heaviness surged into his body. The sensation of power continuing to reach greater and greater levels as he kept his eyes on the existence corruption value. Existence corruption value plus 0.2. Existence corruption value plus 0.55. Existence corruption value has reached 5%. As if to make him very aware due to what happened last time, these words flashed with light crimson borders in front of his eyes. And he continued calmly and steadily assimilating the very world itself. As always, this came with the most changes as his body accepted the billowing waves of power rapidly, his left leg already itching as a moment later, another multicolored meridian bloomed. It was an ecstatic scene as he continued, drawing upon a seemingly endless sea while his power propelled itself even further ahead. As Achilles did this, far above the Silverstone estate, past the transparent barrier protecting the colony city of Neon, there was the massive aerial vessel with a piercing eye that monitored everything down below. At this moment, it captured the video feed of Achilles as he looked to simply be sitting in the garden of the Silverstone estate as if in meditation. And yet all of a sudden, his left leg shone brilliantly as he awakened another meridian. And after a few seconds passed, his chest lit up brightly as a meridian ran down towards his lower body. The video feed of such shocking progression was captured and sent over to an extremely distant location in the colony city of Neon. At this moment, the one looking at this video feed was a woman adorned in a purple gold robe cognizant to that of royalty, her body pulsing with a terrific light of power as there seemed to be many meridians lit up in her body. But more than this, the meridian all seemed to be connected in some way, as if there was one central thing to connect them all, and each one shone with the allure of stars. Ethereal. It was an ethereal physiology, advanced human. Her gaze was serene as at this moment, she was inside of a hidden room in an unknown location filled with screens all around, and she dialed a number on a device in her hand as moments later, the voice of Major Inu rang out on the other end. "Yes, ma'am." Major Inu's calm voice was filled with a sense of respect when talking to this woman as she went straight to it. "Cease all private monitoring of Achilles Maxwell and Rose Adrian. You managed to align them with us, yes? A command was given that Major Inu was not too surprised by, as he replied quickly. Yes, priestess. They have joined the ranks of the few Lunarian enforcers under your banner. Wah, priestess, she was referred to, and she frowned when she heard this term as her body shimmered with an ethereal light while she terminated the video feed of Achilles. Anomalies always have a way of knowing things eventually. I do not want to lose an anomaly that has joined our side. Much less two. We will need everything to tip the scales for what is coming. And the start of it all is the dissolution of the branch of Titan Industries in Neon to see exactly what dreadful inheritance they unearthed. The voice of the priestess was sharp and decisive as Major Inu nodded heavily on the other end. Above, the video feed recording the Silverstone estate went dark as just before it did. It barely managed to capture how, while just sitting down, Achilles' eyes radiated a terrifying multicolored radiance as two meridians of the eyes bloomed. In the garden of the Silverstone estate, Achilles watched as everything suddenly became unfathomably clear. He blinked as two multicolored meridians opened in his pupils, and he felt as if he had an extremely bad vision before this as now. He could truly see. He stared out as he found he could observe even the drop of water and moisture hanging on a leaf 3 miles away from the Silverstone estate. He looked up as he could see the distant aerial vessels in the skies, as well as the many unique constructs there. The transparent dome, like barrier far above. He felt like he could see everything with much more clarity as he also saw. Existence corruption value has reached 41%. He saw a value he had been monitoring reach a certain percentage as he stopped, breathing out slowly as he stopped assimilating the world. He slowly switched and began to assimilate the evolutionist crystals contained in the Crystal Vault 3 as slowly he watched the existence corruption value head down. And the changes for the organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body, echelon, there were heavy gains, to say the least. Organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body, echelon 1, 49.167%. Obtain the qualities of planetary force field I, gravitational field manipulation I, world healing I, limited astronomical physiology I. The echelon of organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body was incredibly hard to raise. It took time, even as Achilles absorbed the world constantly without needing to hunt or anything. Because as he did this, over an hour had already passed as the incursion would start very soon. He breathed out while floating upwards gently, his body analyzing the terrifying force he felt within him as he felt over 3 to 4 times stronger than he was just an hour ago before he sat in that garden. Among the main sources of things he needed to assimilate, 3 were natural and he could utilize them at any time. The world he was on, the light of the moon, and the light of the sun. He needed a day without any interruptions to simply sunbathe and moonbathe, as well as being connected to Euthymia to eat up from its vast sea even more. But for now, there was an incursion on a powerful group in the colony city of Neon, as this had to be taken care of. He floated back towards the dining room before changing directions and going into the bedroom, feeling Rose's heat in there, as when he floated in. He saw her adorned in a Lunarian Enforcer Meridian Evolutionist armament, as her figure looked utterly ecstatic. She just zipped up the silver-purple top that hugged her tightly, her figure looking absolutely stunning as Achilles couldn't help but wave his hands, gravity changing around her as she was pulled towards his floating figure. She let out a surprise yell before she saw him, and before she could even be embarrassed by what she wore, she found herself in his embrace as he kissed her tightly. Waves of purple radiance gushed in her as the heart meridian that was holding off this whole time buzzed before awakening right after. It was only after a few seconds that Achilles let go of her as she pouted. We have work to do for all these things, little fatty. Get dressed and let's go. We will work hard, and we will play later. She buried her head in his chest as their figures spun, while descending, Achilles letting her down as he hummed with a smile, finding a set of Lunarian Enforcer Meridian Evolutionist armaments for himself as they became ready for an incursion that that would have an ethereal physiology master in the lead. Aerial Lunarian Enforcer Warship, a heavy and terrifying piece of equipment that looked like a floating silver-purple box-like fortress with engines on each of the four corners. It lifted off the Silverstone estate loudly at this moment, Achilles and Rose entering its depths, while following Major Inu, who had returned while introducing everything to them. It is a short notice, but here are those who will be working with you. Major Inu tried his best to hide his shock as the few hours he had left them. He realized that Rose had awakened her heart meridian while Achilles unlocked his eyes meridians. What the hell were the two of them drinking to awaken their meridians this smoothly? He wanted to ask such a basic question as he couldn't, and he instead led them into the central command room of the Lunarian Enforcer warship, where a dozen peak meridian transformation advanced humans could be seen discussing amidst each other. Attention! Major Inu's voice boomed out when they arrived as he pointed toward Achilles, and Rosu looked around at the dozen new faces carefully. Meanwhile, the eyes of the men were dumbfounded when they saw the figure of Rose, all eyes becoming focused on her. Major Inu saw this as he spoke out quickly. These two here are your superiors, genuine Lunarian enforcers that none of you here could get the ranks of. Ranking is everything for the Linares colony overseers, as I will advise you to be very careful with how you look at your superiors. The moment these words were uttered, the 8 Meridian Transformation advanced humans averted their gazes, as this was actually not the first time they were given this warning, with Major Inu having told them in advance not to make fools of themselves. Achilles looked at the 8 men coldly, while the 6 women in the Meridian Transformation stage looked over him up and down, their eyes lighting up at his regal figure and the air of heaviness and power he emanated. Major Inu looked at everyone here before he continued. In this warship, the ones who will lead will be the 2 Lunarian enforcers and myself. Follow orders as they are given, and it will make the difference between life and death. We will simultaneously arrive alongside other warships to surround the base of our target today. It matters not who our target is for this mission, as you all simply need to act. Any questions? Wah. His white meridians pulsed, as the pressure he radiated was not little. Among the 12 peak Meridian Transformation advanced humans on this vessel, one who had tan skin with a low fade haircut breathed out as he spoke calmly, while looking at Achilles. The Linares colony overseers is built on rankings and power. Are we allowed to request a display of power before we leave our lives in the hands of kids? The eyes of Major Inu turned sharp. His expression bore great disappointment as he looked towards the one who had spoken, this being someone he had personally recruited as they held a connection from the past. Chris. Major Inu had begun speaking in a low tone when, "It's okay." Achilles stepped forward. He looked at the dark-skinned advanced human that Inu had just called Chris, and then looked at all the other Meridian Transformation advanced humans here as a cold smile formed on his face. The looks of pride and arrogance he had seen too many times before. A display of power should be necessary before you trust your life to someone. So come, display your power to me, and just move. Just move, he told them. All of them. Chris harumphed as he was the first to move. Or try to. To his shock, at this moment, he realized that he could not move a single step forward or even turn any limb on his body. He seemed to be fixed in space by a terrifying force pressing in all around. He was not the only one, as gradually, one by one, all of the 12 Meridian Transformation advanced humans here came to realize they were stuck in the same positions they were in without being able to move. And before them, without even lifting a hand, Achilles stood calmly as the air of regality coming off of him was particularly grand at this moment. Behind him, Rose's eyes were shining with pure adoration and pride as she nearly jumped up and down at his grandiose show of power. 12 peak Meridian Transformation advanced humans. Each one had their own unique power and varying number of meridians, as many had gone up to or exceeded the meridian heart. And yet, at this moment, as the room within the Lunarian Enforcer warship shone with hues of purple and silver lights, not a single one of them could move even a finger. The peak Meridian Transformation advanced human, Chris was shocked as his bronze meridian began to pulse. The meridians within his eyes pulsed, and the meridians of his organs pulsed to the extent that it felt like massive wriggling veins were popping out. And yet, he still could not lift a single muscle. And how could he or any of the others do so when the pressure of gravitational field manipulation, I pressed down around them? For Achilles, it did not take too much effort to utilize this quality and press heavy gravity around the 12 ahead of him. When they pushed back, he simply increased the pressure. But for them, it was as if a massive force that they could not even see pressed down. Major Inu looked at this scene with a cold gaze that hid his inner shock as he stared at the frozen majors before him. Major David had just finished with logistics as he was arriving in this room, past the sliding glass doors with LOEs, when he walked into such a spectacle. With Achilles looking at all the Meridian Transformation advanced humans here, as he spoke out while releasing the heavy gravity around them. This was just a display of power of the kids you'll be leaving your lives to. Is it enough? He asked as nobody could say anything in the surroundings. As if they forgot to breathe, some breathed out heavily now after that heavy pressure subsided, while Chris had a difficult expression as he eventually became determined, turning and looking at Achilles straight in the eyes, while he placed his fist on his chest in a salute and called out, "I apologize for stepping out of line. I just have a wife and kid that I want to make sure I can return to. Power is everything in the world we live in, and I am more than happy to put my life in the hands of someone who can stop 12 peak Meridian Transformation advanced humans at once." After his salute, he smiled while also sending an apologetic gaze to Major Inu, who harumphed while clapping his hands. Now that such a thing is out of the way, make sure to watch each other's backs during this mission. If you meet a difficult enemy you cannot handle, call out to Enforcer Achilles or Enforcer Rose. They will take care of them for you. Inu laid a lot of responsibility on Achilles and Rose as after such words. Chris looked around them while asking in a low tone, "Just who in our colony city requires this much force, Major Inu?" They were all sworn to secrecy here as they did not even know their targets. Major Inu looked at his watch as he nodded right after. "We are a minute away from the target location, so there is no harm in finding out now. Our target this time is the headquarters of the Titan Industries. Push past any who stand in your way. Kill if you have to. I will lead this team to a certain research facility within the headquarters to obtain files and samples." Titan Industries. All the gazes of the peak Meridian Transformation advanced humans changed at such words as they looked at each other, hesitation showing in the eyes of some as a woman with an evolutionist armament asked hesitantly, "Don't they have an ethereal master stationed at their headquarters within this colony city?" I dash. "That is not something for you to worry about. Major Hopel, a master will be arriving even earlier than us to take care of everything." Inu shut down any opposition before it could begin as a moment later. 1 minute until impact. Get ready. A 1-minute warning was given. Achilles turned towards Rose to see her carefree as she looked around, his planetary force field, wrapping around her in addition to a natural evolutionist suit made up of vines that had the shocking additions of qualities from all previous assimilations, alongside even those of the sunlight and non-luminous moonlight that were obtained recently. He would ensure that not a single thing could possibly hurt her as he looked forward to what this incursion would hold. The biggest thing was seeing an ethereal physiology advanced human for himself, and seeing just how far off he was in terms of power, whether such a being could possibly harm him or Rose. His eyes were bright as he got ready, his senses already picking up a convergence of forces from the air. The colony city of Neon. It had many bouts of excitement, with most events taking place at night, as coincidentally, even the ley line fracture yesterday bloomed as night was setting in. But today, in broad daylight, massive engines hummed as simultaneously multiple aerial Linaris drones and even bigger vessels very few even knew the identities of appeared around the headquarters of the Titan Industries. It was coordinated and extremely quick as right after, emergency horns resounded out while a stern robotic voice began repeating itself again and again. This is an investigation by the Linares Colony Overseers. Personnel of Titian Industries, please stand aside in an orderly manner and do not resist. Wah. The aerial Linares drones opened up their doors as peak meridian transformation advanced humans stood ready to move, while three massive vessels that were Lunarian Enforcer warships opened their doors to reveal even more dazzling figures. This is an investigation by the Linares Colony Overseers. Personnel of Titian Industries, please stand aside in an orderly manner and do not resist. The robotic voice echoed out again from all vessels in the air as at this time. BZZZT. Pure power cracked from the top of the massive building that was the headquarters of Titan Industries. In brilliant light that looked like the allure of stars could be seen erupting out along with a voice. What the hell is this? A booming voice that caused the eardrums of even peak meridian transformation advanced humans to ring as if it were a warning. It was ethereal. The voice was akin to a bomb. Achilles and Rose stood beside Major Enu as the heavy doors of the Lunarian Enforcer warship opened in the skies. He could feel the wind whipping across his skin. He could feel the vast distance to the ground below, where panicked people quickly dispersed. He felt it all, as another thing he did feel was the force that rose up from the roof of the skyscraper labeled Titan. With his perception from the organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body, he felt as if the source of that voice had its own gravitational field, as the level of power it could exert was unbelievable. It became clear to all as akin to a shining star. A middle-aged man floated up grandly, as if the very skies effortlessly held him. Achilles looked towards him with bright eyes as truly. This being looked like he held his own gravitational field that allowed him to lessen the gravity around him and even fly seamlessly, with his body surrounded by crimson flames at this moment. Around him, an ever-present circular storm of flames surrounded him as his body looked like a dazzling piece of artwork of radiant meridians. Meridians that all seemed connected and surging with vibrant energy and power all around, to the extent that above this being's head, one could see an illusory star. A star. One of the more dazzling representations of an ethereal physiology master was that above them, an illusory stellar body would show itself based on the many meridians they awakened and connected. In the grand stage of ethereal physiology, there were the demarcations of minor ethereal physiology, major ethereal physiology, and apex ethereal physiology. The document that Achilles was given only contained information regarding minor ethereal physiology advanced humans. As for them, it started off with a single illusory star. Above the ethereal master who came out of the headquarters of the Titan Industries, Achilles saw a dazzling, illusory crimson, circular star that looked like it carried a dreadful amount of flames, and he actually felt a sense of threat from it. Even with the many assimilations he held, he actually felt a sense of threat, as truly, ethereal physiology masters were powerhouses of their own stature. This one looked utterly enraged as he stared at the many aerial Linares drones and Lunarian Enforcer warships that surrounded the whole building. Before his power could explode even more, Achilles squinted his eyes as he actually turned toward another Lunarian Enforcer warship. There, we met the gaze of a woman who was looking towards him with twinkling eyes. Two Lunarian Enforcers dressed like him, and Rose behind her, as this woman was also dressed like an Enforcer. But she did not seem to have any power emanating from her before, nor could one see the meridians on her body until, boom! At this moment, her body exploded with power, and her gaze remained on Achilles as their eyes locked on. Achilles observing many connected meridians emerging from the skin of this woman as an illusory silver star burned above her head, the ethereal physiology master on their side. And yet, even Achilles did not know she was one until she erupted with her power, and her meridians were actually hidden. How'd she do this? And why? Why is she staring at you like that? The cold voice of Rose danced in his ears as she stared daggers towards the distant warship. The ethereal physiology master there seemed to have even heard her words as his gaze moved from Achilles and onto her briefly before she laughed right after and she jumped out of the Lunarian Enforcer warship. Her figure seemed to be stepping off the silver mirror below her feet as gorgeous, swirling silver rivers surrounded her body, and she looked down on the ethereal physiology master below, clad in flames as she smiled. "Master Axino, what a surprise to see you stationed here." Her voice was cheery and filled with power that could cut one to pieces. "Celine," surrounded by crimson flames, Axino roared out in shock as his face rapidly underwent a change of expression. He looked down at the building below him, as if there was something there that he just remembered, and the Enforcer floating on a silver disc, Lunarian Enforcer Celine, smiled brightly as she floated closer toward Master Axino. "I see you're surprised. Don't worry, they just sent me here to confirm some crazy theories about Titan that I told them were definitely wrong. As long as they confirm that, we will issue an apology and reimburse you for the losses. But until then, will we stay up here peacefully while the investigation finishes? Because if we face resistance, then maybe those rumors I have heard are not false after all." Her smile still hung on her lips, and yet her words carried tremendous danger. Silver hair and eyes. A dazzling number of silver meridians covered her fair skin. This was Lunarian Enforcer Celine, a minor ethereal physiology master of the Linares colony overseers. Even another ethereal master was gritting their teeth right now as she smiled, waving her hands behind her. An instant later, "Let's go," Major Inu called out as he jumped off the warship and towards the building down below, Achilles carrying Rose with him as they floated down smoothly. With a single signal, multiple enforcers and majors of the Linares colony overseers landed on the wide roof. And when he saw this, ethereal master Axino shook his head as if he had come to a decision. His expression was a heavy one as he sighed, while pulling something out. "I cannot let you all go in." His words were callous, as in his hands was a pulsing crimson heart. "Oh!" The silver eyes of Enforcer Celine shone powerfully as a silver glow spread out from her, her hands moving commandingly once more as Major Inu and other peak meridian transformation advanced humans used their powerful bodies to smash down on the roof below them. Multiple holes being created as thereafter they jumped in. He could not let them in, and yet they moved fast to enter, with Achilles feeling a sense of unease as he saw the crimson beating heart that the ethereal master Axino held and threw towards his mouth like candy at this time. His eyes seemed torn at the choice he had to make as the moment he swallowed the heart. The small illusory crimson star above his head pulsed and became far too solid, the skin on his back wriggling as it tore while bat-like wings erupted out, the skin of his head also tearing as two goat horns sprouted. His facial features also changed as they attained the characteristics of a goat, with the level of power his body emanating reaching terrifying levels as he called out coldly. "I said, BZZT, I cannot let you all go in." Boom! A crimson ring of flames erupted from him as the roof of the Titian building was shattered. Those who had just jumped onto the lower floor felt tendrils of flames coming to grab them as they were utterly scorching. Even Achilles was about to retaliate as he expanded the planetary force field, to see how it would fare against an ethereal physiology master. But silver mirrors appeared around him, and all other meridian transformation advanced humans as they bounced the tendrils of flames surging towards them. Boom! The whole upper floor caved in as dust and debris flew around wildly, only for a hot wind to clear everything out in a second as everyone found themselves on the same level. The gaze of Lunarian Enforcer Celine was an utterly cold one as she looked at the figure of ethereal master Axino. You fools truly did go that route. His form was a particularly devilish one. The bat-like wings, the goat horns, and appearance. Even his feet morphed to become closer to hooves, as he did not look entirely human. His gaze was that of obsession as he looked at the meridian transformation advanced humans surrounding this entire floor, as well as the warships above. And his voice, which seemed entirely no longer human, echoed out. "Since you all are here, everything must be out in the open. Down there, they are completing something critical right now, as I cannot allow anyone in. If only you all understood. If only you knew what was at stake." BZZT. A horrific pressure erupted from him as fiery waves of heat cascaded down, with Lunarian enforcer Selene radiating silver rivers of light that stopped its descent as her gaze flashed a smile again. "Did you think we would only come from above, Axino?" As she said this, down below, military trucks arrived as multiple Meridian transformation advanced human flickered out of them, breaking apart the reinforced glass on the first floor as they began spilling into the building. Ethereal Master Axino looked at this with utterly cold, devilish eyes as he shook his head and roared. "You all do not understand," as if he knew some big secret others did not know. Achilles kept Rose close as he felt the power of his transformed ethereal master to only continue to rise, the threat he felt from him actually staying the same uniquely. Not too far from him, the figure of Selene seemed to have purposefully come in front of him and rose as she asked coldly, "What exactly do we not understand? What has the Titan Industries got themselves delved into? For you all to be doing research that abandons your humanity?" Her voice became sharp as she spoke. All Meridian transformation advanced humans here, waiting on her signal to keep going as in the center, the devilish goat form of the ethereal master Axino looked at them as if they were all dead, and he then looked above as he spoke in a dazed fashion. "You all have no idea. Abandon our humanity? There's no such thing. This world was not even a world of humans to begin with." Drastic words were uttered. Achilles' eyes were sharp as he was able to perceive the heavy flows of energy of this being very, understanding just how big a jump in power there was once all of one's meridians were connected to grant one their ethereal physiology. This man before them was surrounded by tendrils of his crimson flames, as even his skin seemed to partly be flames, as if his entire physiology were meridians holding together a shell born of flames. And at this moment, he could impose the terror of his ethereal physiology on everyone here if Lunarian Enforcer Selene was not here to oppose it with her own. Such a being stated that this world was not the world of humans to begin with. The minds of many buzzed with such words as Selene became grave. "What should have you been taking, Axino? This is not the world of humans. Since when? I've fought with you on a battlefield before. You did not look this fucking stupid then." The two ethereal physiology masters stared at each other as the bat-like wings on Master Axino buzzed. He shook his head while his eyes became entirely crimson, his voice grating as if it were peeling metal. "Remember the words of the first transcendent. What is coming is not something humans like us can handle. To fight against it, we need the power of those who used to walk on this world with glory before. The ones who make their return after ages have come and passed. The ones breaking out of their shackles as the catacombs they were entombed and come alive once more. The ancient ones. Wah! Achilles' eyes constricted at such words, while the bat-like wings of the ethereal master Axino stretched out powerfully, as if he were paying his respects to something none of them could see. In Achilles' mind, the words of the ancient ones rang out. Entities who used to be in this world even before humans. Axino genuinely believed this as he continued. "We are simply witnesses to the return of the ancient ones, as none of us stand any chance if we do not change. I do not abandon my humanity. I accept a power that none of you were deemed worthy of in order to handle what is to come. I am an apostle of someone that shall help the colony cities survive the onslaught of what is coming. Do." His voice continued, rising an octave higher every time, the flames around him turning into bubbling magma as Selene released more and more silver rivers of brilliance to combat it. "I am the apostle of the ancient satyr, Jolbakken." Boom! The apostle of the ancient satyr, Jolbakken. The moment these words were uttered, Achilles and everyone else here were shocked. The intensity of power being released from ethereal physiology master Axino reaching an unprecedented level as finally, at this time, the expression of Lunarian Enforcer Selene became livid as she roared out. "Confirmation has been obtained that the Titan Industries are involved in inhumane cult following of evolutious beasts. You have the authority to kill any who stand in your way. head down and destroy any rituals and stop whatever they seek to do. Woo! As she spoke, Lunarian Enforcer Selene stamped her foot down as beams of silver light descended from above, carving out smooth holes across the floor below, as Achilles looked at Rose before they followed the other Meridian Transformation advanced humans and jumped down. Their minds were buzzing as they processed every bit of information they heard. The world was not the world of humans. An ethereal physiology master, and who knew who else, followed something out of the Evolution's catacombs, known as Ancient Satyr Jolbakken. Boom! Explosions could now be heard going off below them, where other forces of the Lenars colony overseers had entered, and above them, as Lunarian Enforcer Selene actually kept a handle against ethereal master Axino above, with Achilles and Rose floating down the floor above as he checked on the girl beside him. "You're okay." Her eyes were bright, just like his as she took everything in, and she nodded as she asked while they followed the figure of Major Inu, and others followed them. "What do you think about all that? The talk of ancient ones?" She asked in a hushed tone that only Achilles could hear, as he already knew where he stood. His expression was firm as he replied, "I think that any beast coming out of the Evolution's catacombs is not something I will be making friends with." Too many deaths had occurred over the many years due to the catacombs. His parents, Rose's parents. Too many children have been orphaned, and some parents had to watch their children die. And now, powerful advanced humans were claiming that they needed the power of ancient ones, beings who were locked inside catacombs, and were making their return now. No, to Achilles, this was just another form of warfare. "Stay with me." Major Inu roared as they all felt the air around them change. The stench of blood permeated as Achilles felt like he could taste the rancid, putrid odor of metal on the tip of his nose. They entered a floor below that had shattered glass all around, with the stench of blood permeating throughout as mutilated bodies of body modification advanced humans were strewn about. And on top of them, the sounds of chewing and bones being crushed could be heard as 3-meter-tall goat, like advanced humans with crimson eyes, stood over them. The moment Achilles and others arrived, these goat-like advanced humans turned towards them and roared as they were all of Meridian transformation. Their bodies had grown larger as their meridians pulsed and protruded, their eyes crimson as if they had lost all reasoning. They were members of strike teams of Titan Industries as currently they had decimated all those below the Meridian transformation stage and were even eating them. The moment Achilles and others came across this scene, their gazes became heavy as a woman behind them even puked out her breakfast. But as the transformed advanced humans began coming towards them, Achilles felt his power coursing through him as he knew it was finally time to learn more about what he could do and test out the many new things he gained. On his hands, golden light glimmered as his body felt an exuberance of power. From sunlight, he held Solar Generation Eye, Innate Solar Barrier Eye, Solar Empowerment Eye, and Solar Conversion Eye. The rays of the golden sun landing on the bloodied floor also covered him as solar empowerment made him feel like he was running on a boost constantly, and at this moment, he utilized solar generation. From his hands, golden light flashed before a scorching golden beam of light erupted from him at a speed others could barely follow. Boom! The beam of golden light flashed past a greater Meridian transformation goat like advanced human as instantly, their upper body swirling with a devilish air was scorched out of existence. A lower body with scorched markings fell down as everyone behind, and even Major Inu was shocked, but they had no time to stare as the other transformed advanced humans spilled over, many of them surging toward Achilles as if they saw him to be the prime threat. "Attack!" Major Inu roared as white flames surged from him like a flamethrower, while the advanced humans behind them threw out spiked earth, cold spears, lightning, and many other ability factors that made them special. But such attacks only pushed back the coming transformed advanced humans or injured them slightly, their advancement relentless. They came to realize that none of them could one-shot these terrifying enemies empowered by a devilish air as Achilles had done before. For many of them, Rose stood behind Achilles at this time, as with her eyes burning green, a dazzling verdant ball of flames that caused the temperature to rise up by an octave nearby, formed and shot out speedily, smashing onto a transformed advanced human as they were knocked back while quickly beginning to burn, their skin becoming scorched in real time before a few seconds later, they became a black scorched remnant that crashed down with a bang. Many in the surroundings breathed heavily. The battle was high-paced, as it seemed there was no rest, with the transformed advanced humans not caring about any of them who died, as they only surged ahead mindlessly. And as they neared everyone, Achilles looked towards them with a sense of distaste as solar generation was activated again, and he freely poured in the endless seas of energy he had in his body into it, as in front of him, multiple golden beams of light shot out, each one emitting a droning sound as they targeted all 7 remaining transformed advanced humans. Boom! 7 bodies instantly halted, as some had their whole upper bodies erased, while others only had half of their upper bodies wiped away. But undoubtedly, all 7 crumpled onto the floor as they no longer had heads or hearts. A single beam of solar light utterly erasing everything on its path as a burnt smell hung in the air. A burnt smell hung in the air as from the back. Chris and many others swallowed heavily. Achilles looked at even a shocked Major Inu as he stepped towards the lower floors below. "Let's go." He pulled them out of their reverie as they continued down. At this moment, Achilles had more of a grasp of his power as he was more confident in what he could do. And the stench of blood, as well as the goat transformed advanced humans. Ethereal Master Axino called himself an apostle, right? His voice was sharp as it was heard by Major Inu and others around him. Major Inu nodded heavily as he spoke out. Advanced humans tainted by something they took out of the catacombs. We suspected it with beings like Solomon, but we did not know it was this bad. They call themselves apostles, so we shall designate them as such. Apostles. Apostles of the ancient satyr, Jolbakan. Achilles nodded coldly at this as, in the next moment, the floor they were on caved in and began to crumble. Even the ceiling and remaining floor above them did the same, as it seemed like a heavy impact spread out across the skyscraper of Titan Industries. This whole structure shaking. Achilles and Rose simply floated in the air as a transparent barrier kept everything away from them. Other Meridian Transformation advanced humans using their own means possible to hang on, as some who were not capable of staying afloat or jumping on the crumbling debris. Breathed sighs of relief when they saw their bodies suspended in midair, their eyes turning towards Achilles thankfully. Within moments, the crumbling building settled. The floors above and below them were gone as heavy damage fell onto the streets below, booming emergency sounds and cars constantly beeping, while it looked like this whole area was cleared out to prevent as many casualties as possible. Above them in the skies, 2 dazzling glows of silver and red fought as the air was filled with a putrid stench of blood, and below them, the crumbled building showed a floor reinforced by layers of sheets of metal that formed a circular outline that now glowed red like a portal. Below the sheets of metal, thick flows of blood could be seen inside a pool that bubbled eerily. The hearts of advanced humans and thousands of dazzling purple evolutionist crystals seen within the depths of such a pool, as it was surrounded by dozens of apostles of the ancient satyr. Most of them were in the Meridian Transformation stage, as they seemed to hold more cognizance. And Achilles saw the figure of a distraught Amos with his powerful eyes and vision at this moment. He was standing in front of groups of humans that had not transformed, with one of them in a lab coat, screaming towards the forces of the Linares colony overseers that had entered from below. "They held my children hostage. I did not want to do any of this. I did not undergo the ritual to become an oppost." Boom! A massive goat-like hand of a peak Meridian Transformation smashed down onto the man in a lab coat as he became a mush of blood and gore. All others who were not tainted by the devilish light became quiet at this, along with Amos, who seemed like he had lost everything. Achilles looked at him without an ounce of compassion, but he was not the immediate concern at this moment. The terrifying, wriggling portal that seemed to have been built on the blood and hearts of others, paired with thousands upon thousands of evolutionist crystals, was radiating a horrific aura as it was protected by dozens of apostles. A woman with crimson hair at the forefront shouting towards the forces of the Linares colony overseers. "You all do not understand. We do this to protect us all. We do this so we can save all colony cities." She was roaring out as behind her back, bat-like wings similar to ethereal master Axino vibrated, her body shining with dozens of meridians as heavy winds whipped around her that stopped any others from coming close. Wind. She controlled it to a shocking degree, as while she stalled for time, the crimson portal behind her pulsed with a heavy air. "Stop her!" Major Inu and others shouted out as their bodies erupted with their own ability factors. But they were all veered off track or dissipated entirely by the heavy winds swirling around the crimson-haired apostle. Major Inu's expression was heavy as he floated down with bursts of white flames on his feet. Peak Meridian Transformation Rancor Lotus. You are one of the prides of the colony city of Neon. Why do something like this? Another powerful major down below shouted out. Lotus, some place within the top 10 of the Meridian banner rankings. A truly powerful Meridian transformation advanced human that others could not easily match, as around the periphery of her control, nothing could pass through. Normally. Boom. Achilles and Rose arrived on the lower floor as inside of the protection of swirling wind. Amos saw them as he looked incredulous before his eyes burned with hatred. Their entrance also pulled the gaze of one of the more powerful Meridian transformation advanced humans known within the colony city of Neon, the Apostle Lotus. She had only opened her mouth to speak when suddenly, SAA. Her figure moved sideways as a terrifying beam of light that caused her heart to palpate scorched a portion of the evolutionist armament she wore. She was shocked as she moved her hands to her chest, reducing the area of effect of the wind barrier she made as her pupils saw the glimmer of even more golden solar beams of light surge in her direction. Boom, boom, boom. Heavy winds rapidly moved her aside or caused slight deviations in the solar beams as she barely came out scot-free, her eyes livid as she opened her mouth to roar inhumanely towards Achilles in the next moment. But at this time, Ichium, a droning sound echoed out as the pulsing portal she had been protecting this whole time pulsed with a devilish crimson-purple light. An action that caused joy to flash in the eyes of Apostle Lotus as she laughed while spreading her hands out. Ha! Ha! It is too late. He is here. He is here. Boom! 9 beams of scorching solar light thundered on all sides as she celebrated, her happy expression deteriorating as this time she could not evade them all. Her figure was smashed into as she was flung like a rag doll, about to smash onto the portal behind her when something that caused the hearts of all those here to drop occurred. From the bubbling crimson portal, a sizable hand with crimson skin came out, stopping the advancement of Apostle Lotus any further as it grabbed onto her head and dissipated the heavy force flinging her back. Her skin all over her body was scorched and nearly melted, but her eyes held a hint of fanatism as she tried to turn her head around to observe the glorious entity spilling out of the portal. For his aura was grand, and just his hand was enough to cause much trepidation as something unimaginable walked out of a portal that was made from the sacrifices of who knew how many. The metallic taste of blood flowed in the air. Above, red clouds began to gather as they looked at a scene of devastation down below. A decimated skyscraper, shattered glass, and structures were strewn nearby as this whole area was cleared of civilians as much as possible. But in all of this carnage, there were undoubtedly some deaths, whether intended or not. And now, Achilles felt as if electricity was coursing through him as he looked at the bloody portal surrounded by metallic casings and the pool of thousands of evolutionist crystals and hearts from it. Hearts. Most held dim radiance or no radiance at all, as they were from body modification advanced humans or normal humans for the most part. And yet Titan Industries had been decimating the lives of these people as their hearts now burned as fuel for something they did not even understand. In the surroundings, emergency signals rang out as more aerial Linares drones arrived from the skies, and more advanced humans heard the commotion as they came from many directions. In the skies, helicopters could be seen as advanced humans holding massive cameras were honing in on this area, all of them shocked and horrified from the distance as they reported on what they saw, a scene of decimation in the headquarters of Titan Industries. Drones of the Linares colony overseers and their watchdogs have descended unfairly upon such a pillar of our colony and decimated it. Will the Noblesse and Golden Trading Company be next? The news being reported may be perceived differently depending on who they were aligned with, as some were reporting other things entirely. Others, the fusion of advanced humans and evolutionist beasts. What has Titan Industries been up to? In that portal, boom! Many of the aerial vessels in the skies felt a heavy, booming impact as the less reinforced ones actually exploded, a terrifying glow erupting from a bloody portal down below as the gazes of many became heavy. Achilles was stern while looking at what was coming out of the bloody portal, his body anchored on the ground as he felt the vast sea that was the organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body. Just as a precaution, he began swallowing up its vast waters again as the percentage of this assimilation steadily began rising up, along with his existence corruption value. And he looked ahead. When he stared at ethereal physiology advanced humans, he felt a sense of a threat. But that was it. At this moment, just from the crimson hand of the creature coming out of the bloody portal, his senses buzzed as the danger he sensed was great. He stood in front of Rose as his mind was already made up, whispering something only she could hear. If shit hits the fan, we run, okay? He was a Lunarian enforcer, yes, but his job was only to deal with peak meridian transformation advanced humans. And he did just that more than anyone else here. A creature summoned by the Titan Industries who were talking about ancient ones and transforming themselves into half-goats. This was not on their job descriptions. If it posed too great a danger to him and Rose, he would turn back. He and many others watched as the figure of Apostle Lotus was held up by the head, her eyes vibrant as she cackled with fanaticism while trying to turn around to observe the great being she had helped call out, the one who would help them to stand against what was to come. I welcome you back into your world, oh, ancient satyr, Joel Bakken. Apostle Lotus roared out reverentially as from the bloody portal. A figure towering over 5 meters tall came out. Humanoid in nature. Crimson skin. Hooves for his feet and humanoid hands with radiant crimson fingers. His lower body was adorned in what looked to be ancient golden armament that was dim in luster, while his upper body was laid bare, his abdominal muscles shining powerfully. His head held red gold horns, as it was actually more human than a goat, with an utterly handsome appearance presenting itself as this being looked otherworldly. Dark red hair flowed from his head and cascaded behind to his shoulders as if it had not been taken care of for too long. On his back, a pair of massive crimson gold wings that swirled with flames could be seen, causing the very air to feel thick and stifling. And his eyes, many weaker meridian transformation advanced humans found themselves averting their gazes as if they could not even bear to withstand the gaze and aura of this great being. He arrived as while still holding the head of his apostle, he breathed in deeply, simply breathed in, and yet all the vibrant energies in the surroundings converged into him fervently, the crimson lips of this being smiling as he looked at his right hand and raised it, as if moving it after quite some time. It has truly been too long. H.U.M. His voice was deep and archaic. The words he spoke were old and barely discernible. He raised the head and body of Apostle Lotus, smiling at her looks of fanaticism as he brought her head right in front of him and sniffed. I'm a little bland, but you will do, my dear apostle. Here is your present for such dedication. His hand glowed crimson gold. A terrifying light covered Apostle Lotus as she yelled out, and the next moment, boom! Her body exploded with the radiance of meridians. Meridians filled her weavings as multiple new ones were awakened, and they all instantly connected together as a terrific light converged above her head to form into a crimson star. A crimson star representative of ethereal physiology. Her ethereal physiology was shockingly forming and being put together by this unfathomable entity in a matter of seconds, the brilliance of the crimson gold light bathing her entirely as by the time she was released from his hands. She let out a sultry voice as her bat-like wings flapped, releasing hot winds as she kneeled in the air towards the being she referred to as the ancient satyr, Jolbakken. Around her, a terrific physiology formed as during all this chaos. Her head turned around unnaturally as she stared dead ahead at the man who had nearly scorched her out of existence with solar beams. She stared with a deadly light towards Achilles. A newly born ethereal physiology master turned her head towards him. Achilles' eyes turned cold as Apostle Lotus spoke towards the ancient satyr, Jolbakken, while keeping her gaze locked on Achilles. "Master, there are those who had wished to deny your entry here. Is it okay for me to take care of them?" Her voice was chilling as other apostles nearby began to edge closer towards the terrifying crimson gold entity that seemed to be a creature from ancient times. He smiled brilliantly as he looked around, his glance not locking onto anyone in particular as he even passed his gaze over the aerial vessels above. His eyes nor the rest of his body showed no visible meridians or illusory stars, and yet heavy brilliance flashed every now and then as if it was all just veiled. His eyes, even without erupting with meridians, saw further than any meridian transformation advanced human as he stared at the distant vessels above. Metal birds floating in the skies? How the times have changed since then. I just woke up with this weak avatar, but it seems that Samantha here will not let me rest. His voice was magnetic as he looked up, and in the skies, right at the position he stared at, an invisible vessel appeared while its heavy doors opened, 3 ethereal physiology masters stepping out of it. 2 men and woman who were adorned in Lunarian enforcer armaments looked towards the avatar of the ancient satyr below. These beings carried powerful identities as their bodies burned with heavy brilliance. The one at the forefront showed 3 dazzling, illusory, 5-pointed stars spinning above him. 3. The other 2 had singular ethereal stars above their heads, as the man at the forefront spoke out seriously. "Do not let its corruption spread far." Woo! They made their stance clear as they dropped from the skies like glimmering stars. Achilles only observed them in the corner of his eyes that remained fully locked onto Apostle Lotus, who waited until she received a command. "Go wild, my child. Let the others who serve me also come to receive my blessings." Boom! The moment he finished speaking, he raised his hand as a brilliant crimson gold light flashed, and above him, a horrific crimson gold magic circle bloomed. A magic circle, something very few even knew and understood. But from it, crimson gold clouds spilled out while jagged crimson gold crystals shot upwards before they turned down and began to drop like rain. In the skies, Lunarian enforcer Selene held off Axino with a heavy expression as she looked down below. The appearance of 3 other ethereal physiology masters put on reserve if anything went wrong aiding in this horrible situation, but she feared it might not be enough, because this was the first time that something like that came out. It made a bloody portal that seemed to be a more advanced version of the entrance portals they guarded all over the colony city of Neon, as one would wonder where it would lead to. But all of this was something that would have to be asked much later if they survived here. A few miles away from the crumbled headquarters of Titan Industries, a sleek, pure purple vessel floated serenely as inside of it. 2 ethereal physiology masters sat down with frowning gazes as one spoke to the other. "Shall we help out? One of our bases lies in this colony city, and we have not fought against a genuine avatar of an ancient one before." Words filled with power echoed out as there was no reply yet. With the vessel, the 2 beings were accompanied by 9-peak meridian transformation advanced humans adorned in luxurious suits that made them look unfathomably regal. They were of the designation of noblesse. Amidst the blooming chaos, there were many parties embroiled as the colony city of Neon began to wake with activity akin to a heavy behemoth emerging from its slumber. But one being did not care too much regarding all the many parties and ensuing chaos. His gaze only locked onto the figure of the newly elevated Apostle Lotus, who floated towards their direction while releasing waves of dangerous power. At the same time, the crimson gold clouds from the avatar of the ancient satyr spilled out all around, rapidly covering everything as any advanced humans within its vicinity began to cough and feel like their body was being attacked by something that ate away at their power. There were also massive crimson gold crystals that thundered down from above, further transforming the landscape around into something else entirely as the apostles nearby seemed to become more powerful while everyone else became weaker. Around Achilles, a faint transparent green barrier prevented any of the thick billowing clouds to cover them as he currently thought of what to do. "Little fatty, let me burn anything that comes close." Rose held a defiant gaze as scorching green flames burned at her fingertips, knowing that an ethereal physiology master was coming after them, as she actually was not scared. At this point, Achilles' eyes flashed sharply as he stopped assimilating the organic and inorganic terrestrial planetary body, the percentage reaching 69% as the high corruption value that had nearly spilled over 40% again rapidly began to reduce as he assimilated hundreds of evolutionist crystals from his Crystal Vault 3. After that, his figure took Rose with him as he floated near a massive crimson gold crystal that had smashed into the ground like a pillar as he yelled inwardly, "Assimilate!" His eyes shone with brightness as the sensation of danger so far was contained, and he sought to reduce it even more. So his thoughts went towards the thing that seemed to be empowering the enemies here. If he could assimilate the very source of that thing. SAA. Arcs of light flashed between him and the crystal before it melted a moment later, with Achilles feeling a billowing heat seething within his body as shockingly 3 meridians within him lit up from the absorption of a single crimson gold crystal. The jump in power was explosive compared to what he had assimilated as he quickly looked at the panel to determine why, knowing an ethereal physiology master was closing in. Primordial energy source, primordial corrupted crystal, 25%. Obtain the qualities of primordial energy generation, peak foundation physiology, accelerated growth, and atavism.